If you would all please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women in harm's way. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. Thank you, everyone. In the event of an emergency, if we are needed to evacuate the building, if you please exit the door you came in, the one that's behind your left shoulder or the one that's behind Mr. Reese. We will all go across the street to the school department building and await further instructions from our first responders. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Gleason?
Here.
Ms. Blank?
Here.
Ms. McDowell?
Here.
Ms. Patton?
Here.
Mr. Reese?
Here.
Mr. Hamilton?
I am here. Mr. Payer will not be joining us this evening because his mother passed away last week, so he is attending to her funeral. Prior to the meeting, we had an executive session. There were 2 items on the agenda. There was 1 vote taken. It passed 4-2. First up, we have public comment. We have Mr. Mike DiPiola. You have 3 minutes. You would like to talk about signs.
Can the camera put me on?
No,
Why is that?
because you have a shirt that is not fit for TV.
It's
And
not.
a hat. It is not.
Do you know what this means?
Yes, I do.
What does it mean?
It means that you have a shirt from the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Okay, so then why is the shirt?
Because I don't see it fit for TV. You can either speak now or not.
Solicitor, do you have an opinion on that?
He doesn't. He doesn't. Would you like to speak about signs or would you like to sit back down? Specifically about signs.
I guess I get to speak for 3 minutes about signs. Members of the council, I am here today to address the shameful conduct displayed by this body when you voted on the new sign ordinance. By cutting me off just like a few minutes ago, preventing me from speaking, you did more than just violate the spirit of an open meeting. You committed a direct assault on the First Amendment rights of a citizen you are sworn to represent. For many years, this town has stood by and watched a blatant sign violations occurred in every corner of Portsmouth. You have ignored illegal banners, unpermitted structures, flashing displays for over a decade, some going back 15 years. But suddenly, when a display at 1074 East Main Road doesn't fit your personal aesthetic, you decide to rush through an ordinance specifically designed to target one property and one property only, while leaving your friends and favorite businesses untouched. Let's be honest about why we are here. We are here because town planner Leah Hitchen made the elitist and discriminatory statement that Portsmouth doesn't want to be like Johnston or Cranston. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but that's an insult to me. That comment is a smoking gun. It proves that this ordinance is not about safety. It's not about traffic. It's not about the law. It is content-based restriction designed to scrub the town of speech that certain officials find low class or inconvenient. Under the U.S. Supreme Court ruling in Reed versus Town of Gilbert, the government cannot regulate displays based on the feel of the message of the sign. When you target my property while ignoring the identical violations of others, you are engaging in selective enforcement, a direct violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. You have allowed other property owners to display inventory, equipment, and massive signs for years without a single peep from code enforcement. Yet, you fast-tracked a law to silence the speech on my land. Be advised, you cannot legislatively erase a use that has existed for over 6+ years in a federal court order just because you don't like the tone of the message. My property has a vested right as a pre-existing non-conforming use. Rhode Island law is clear. You cannot simply flip a switch and make years of established activity illegal overnight. You can cut the microphone. You can try to hide behind the elitist comments about other Rhode Island cities, but you cannot hide from the Constitution. If this town council continues to use a law as a weapon for selective harassment while ignoring actual violations townwide, some dating back 15+ years with no forgiveness for taxes, you are not protecting Portsmouth. You are inviting a federal civil rights lawsuit that this town cannot afford. I am a taxpayer, I am a resident, and unlike that stupid sign ordinance, my right to speak out is not subject to your approval. I expect my full time to address this body without further interruption, now and every time I choose to speak.
Next up, we have a proclamation proclaiming May 3rd through the 9th as Professional Municipal Clerks Week. You're gonna make me read it, aren't you?
You can choose not to.
That's okay. Town of Portsmouth, Rhode Island Proclamation, 57th Annual Professional Municipal Clerks Week, May 3rd through 9th, 2026. Whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the Office of Professional Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, local governing bodies, and agencies of government at all levels. And whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of their office through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments and dedicated service of Office of Professional Municipal Clerk. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Keith Hamilton, President of the Portsmouth Town Council, do hereby proclaim the week of May 3rd through the 9th, 2026 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and do hereby extend sincere appreciation to Jen M. West, CMC, and to all professional municipal clerks in the town of Portsmouth for the vital services they perform, and their exemplary dedication to communities they serve. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand on the 27th day of April, 2026. I will say that the clerks do provide a very vital function from everywhere from birth certificates through land records and everything in between. So thank you very much for all of you in the office.
Thank you, Jen. She gets to sign her own certificate too.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. All right, next up, we have our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0 and 1 with an abstention from recusal from Ms. McDowell. Next, we'll be sitting as the Board of License Commissioners. We have a peddler's license, mobile food establishment for Newport Creamery LLC, doing business as Newport Creamery, 781 Tioga Avenue in Coventry.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And next up, we have a Class F1 daily liquor license for Travel Tavern LLC, 198 Summit Drive, Cranston, for a graduation celebration at 29 Chelsea Drive on June 13th, 2026, from 4 to 7 p.m.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Motion to adjourn as the Board of License Commissioners.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up, we have our minutes from 3/23 and the executive to follow, and 4/13/2026 and the executive. Any corrections or updates needed? Hearing none, do I have a motion to
Motion to
approve?
approve as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up, we have our town administrator's report. Mr.
Mr.
Rayner.
President, Town Council, ladies and gentlemen. With regard to the Rhode Island Energy natural gas injection site on Old Mill Lane, we've been informed that winter operations for this season have now been completed and all the trailers have been removed from the site. Crews will remain, however, on site to complete some miscellaneous projects to include some driveway restoration, some plantings, and some equipment-related work, including some valve work. That work is expected to take approximately 6 weeks to complete. With regard to the community aggregation program discussion that we had at the last meeting, since that meeting, I just want to let you know that we've updated the town's website to more prominently feature the recent rate update through the homepage banner, and we've made that information easier for residents to access. That update clearly outlines the options available to participants and provides step-by-step guidance for anyone who may wish to change their participation or opt out of the program. And we'll continue to monitor feedback and make sure that residents have clear and accessible information as this moves forward. We will begin accepting nominations for the annual Portsmouth Award next week. This award recognizes an individual, a local business, or an organization that reflects the very best of Portsmouth through consistent excellence in professional and community leadership, and whose contributions directly benefit the town. Details will be posted on the town website along with the press release, and nominations will be accepted through June 30th. I would encourage residents to take just a few moments to consider someone deserving of this recognition and submit a nomination. I'd also like to note that the town will be observing Arbor Day this Friday, May 1st, with a ceremony at the Hathaway School beginning at 9:15 in the morning. This year's observance will include the dedication of a tree in memory of our town historian, Jim Garman. Jim was a valued member of our community, and we hope that this will be a meaningful way to recognize his lasting contributions to the town. Council President Keith Hamilton has signed the Arbor Day proclamation and will be present to read it at the ceremony. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Rhode Island Energy for the donation of the tree, our Department of Public Works for preparing the site, and the Portsmouth Tree Commission for their continued support and involvement. And then lastly, just a reminder that if you are a dog owner in town, those dogs must be licensed by this Thursday, April 30th per state law. Otherwise, starting May 1st, some late fees will kick in. So please get your dogs licensed. That's it, Mr. President.
Any questions for Mr. Rayner? Okay. Next up, we have resignations, removals, and appointments. First up, we have a resignation by Mr. Nassau from the Dog Park Committee.
Motion to receive with regret the resignation of Mr. Richard Nassau.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And next, we have a request for the removal of Mrs. Smith from the Bristol Ferrytown Common Committee.
Motion to receive with regret the resignation of removal
Thank you.
of Nancy Smith, who has recently passed away.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. First up, we have old business. Just a review and action to be taken, or recommendations, excuse me, from the Portsmouth Solid Waste Ad Hoc Committee. Ms. McDowell, would you like to kick us off?
First of all, this committee came into play when we were introduced with a fee to be charged to Prudence Island for their trash removal. And as a result of discussions on that evening, it was decided that we would develop or implement an ad hoc committee to look at all trash programs for Portsmouth. And that became quite the endeavor. We met every week, members of DPW, Dave Gleason, Dave Reese, myself, Paul Kesson, our Colby, our waste diversion manager. And what we did is we looked into each individual program and looked at how the program operated or operates, what recommendations or considerations after studying them we could make going forward, And we have come here tonight to give you those results of that working group. And so we have Dave Gleason that is going to be presenting. And first of all, I want to thank Kayla, Mr. Reyna, and all the members of the group for supplying us with an incredible amount of data. Also John Spadaro from Prudence Island, who did a incredible job with just studying the ins and outs of Prudence Island Transfer Station. And he, along with the Prudence Island Planning Commission, presented one of our recommendations the other day on the 16th of April, looking at the fee for Prudence Island. And it, in my opinion, we were all present on Zoom. In my opinion, it was well received. And we're bringing that forward as one of the recommendations. But each of us will speak on the individual trash program and what some of our recommendations and considerations have been. Mr. Gleason, you want to start off? You're first, yeah.
Actually, I was going to ask if John is online. I think it would be proper for him to start because his the figures that they came up with would affect the transfer station rates ultimately.
Hi there.
Hi, John. Good evening.
Thank you for getting this on the agenda, and hopefully we can make short work of it. So there were actually 10 recommendations related to or driven by the Prudence Island portion of this study. The first recommendation has already been approved by the town council at its March 23rd meeting, where Prudence Islanders who had previously had partial year permits could pay for permits through the end of this year for $50, and that has been very well received. The second recommendation, which we had brought forward, thank you for putting those up, that we had brought forward at the April 16th Prudence Island Planning Commission meeting, which was very, very well attended. We talked about a flat fee for all homeowners. So for every home property, not empty lots, of $175, that would cover the transfer station permit for a full year, doing away with the partial year permits that we've had in the past. The permit would be issued on payment of the fee. You could purchase additional stickers for $10, and homeowners would be able to purchase a placard for short-term rental properties so that short-term renters would be able to use the transfer station as well. I'm hopeful that we will have a motion to move this recommendation forward. There was a motion at the Prudence Island Planning Commission meeting to recommend forwarding this recommendation to the town council for approval. The third recommendation that we came up had to do with data collection, and we collected a lot of data. We analyzed a lot of data, and there's a lot of really good data out there. What you can see here, I'm sure you can't read the numbers, but is sort of pulling data across multiple sources, which I think is really imperative to adequately manage that transfer station. One of the things that we discovered is there's real variability in how many tons a load going off the island contains. It can range from 15 tons at the high end, but sometimes it's 2 tons. Given the high cost of getting trash off Prudence, we would like to see that tonnage increase, and we know it's complicated, but I think this data can help us understand how it works, and I would recommend that we keep using that data and looking at it on a regular basis. The additional thing we discovered is we started logging cars coming into the transfer station. Granted, it was just done during the winter months, but we would like to move that to continue doing that moving forward. And what we could see is, you know, some days, some weeks during the week, there were only 9 cars that came into the transfer station on a day. Is that best and effective use of the dollars supporting the transfer station? We have to talk about that. We have to consider that and take a look at it. Another recommendation actually came from a reaction of Mary when she did a site visit. We need to improve the signage at the transfer station. I think this is a really easy thing to do, but the signage is sort of inconsistent, and I think a little bit of work could make people understand how the transfer station works going forward. The next recommendation, one of the things that the Prudence Island Planning Commission has talked about many times, and we had a small working group that we put together, has to do with the fact that we are sending yard waste off the island at some expense, and then all of us who are gardeners bring compost back on the island. In the past, there was composting, municipal composting of yard waste on the island, and we would like to put together an ad hoc committee to see if we could bring that back. Fully understand that state regulation can be a little bit difficult in this realm, but I think we should study it and see whether we can add some efficiencies there, and instead of hauling the stuff off to Johnston and then having people have to buy it and bring it back. There were 3 other recommendations that didn't get included in this deck, but that were part of my formal recommendations, and that was, to the extent possible, make sure that we maintain separate records for each of the and finances for each of the 3 solid waste programs. That is mostly in place, but there's a little bit of bleeding around the edges that we have to take care of. And recommendation 9 is, ever since I've been involved in the Prudence Island Planning Commission, and in talking to Rich Rayner, we've talked about the fact that we really need to bring solid waste programs back into the tax base. And everyone I talked to says, yep, that's what we need to do. But it's been many, many years and we've not taken a single step forward. So I think we have to actually take action to see if we can do that. And there are a couple different ways, whether you do it, phase it in over a number of years, or just bite the bullet and exceed the 4% in a given year. But we're not going to normalize the trash situation in the town of Portsmouth until we actually do that. And recommendation 10 is to establish the long-term goal of providing, like most suburban towns and certainly urban cities in Rhode Island, is because it's funded through the taxes. You provide curbside pickup to all residences, funded through the town budget, and then you continue the operation of a transfer station for waste diversion items such as metals, cardboard, yard waste, etc. I think that needs to be established as a long-term vision for the solid waste programs for the town of Portsmouth. And so those are the recommendations that we have, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions, or if you want to go to the recommendations or considerations from Mary and Dave, that's fine too. However you want to run it, Mary.
I think we're going to start here first with you, and I'm going to have one question and a comment here on recommendation number 2. Last bullet point: stickers purchased for Prudence Island Transfer Station will enable entry to the Headley Street Transfer Station. That should be in reverse. That if there is a homeowner that has a home on Prudence and also has a home on the mainland, if they purchase a sticker for Headley Street, they can use Prudence Island. Because otherwise, people are going to want to pay the $175 for Headley Street, and we'd have a huge deficit there.
I mean, it certainly is a possibility. One of the reasons for including it in that direction, and I understand the issue that you're raising, but is the Prudence Transfer Station does not provide all services. For example, there's no waste oil collection. And there are other things that you collect at Headley that we don't have any ability to get rid of. So the ability for Prudence Islanders to use Headley is important. Now, how you work that out with the people who own properties in both places is a good question.
Mr. President, that was a topic that came up in discussion, and perhaps Mr. Rodericks could expound on it, but it was a surprise, I would say, to all that that you could use the Headley Street station with a Prudence sticker. But to me, it made sense. They have to pay for every mattress that leaves the island, where we are offered the option of getting rid of them for free. By the time it gets over on the boat and it's been sitting around, it's dirty, it's not accepted by the end user. But that was one of the options, that if you had a pickup truck and you want to go through the hassle of putting it on the ferry, you would be able to do that. If you wanted to bring your waste oil over here, that was also looked at as a positive. Other things that they don't take over there, maybe books, I don't know. But the bottom line is there will be a handful of people on Prudence that will fall into that category that could buy a sticker to use on the mainland, but everything would be based on their address, you know? So it would be limited, the amount of people that would be able to take advantage of it. But, you know, is it a legal issue? I don't know.
If we're talking about diversionary items and not people bringing their trash over and from Prudence and throwing it into Headley Street, because that would add to the cost. Diversionary items typically are not as costly
Sure.
for us. So if people want to bring over their oil, if they want to bring over metals, which we still do over there, but I don't see anybody spending $60 on a round trip on the ferry to bring a mattress over to the station.
Apparently it's, I
Yes,
can
sir.
do it at this point.
Yeah, that was brought up because of a single homeowner with a residence on Prudence Island, not one over here. That if they were using the Prudence Island transfer station and had a sticker, and it was an off day, they couldn't bring their trash there, and they were coming over here, they could use the transfer station here. It wasn't meant to be for both. I agree with you, Keith, that if they're gonna pay 300 and something here or 175 there, they're gonna pay 175 and use it for two households, that's not gonna be good.
I'm just worried about the cost escalation
Correct.
at Headley. And even if this 175 passes, there's still going to be a town commitment to close the gap at Prudence Island, where that commitment is not available at Headley Street. So
Right.
I'd like to keep Headley Street as tight as possible, if we can.
I just have one question, but previously they were able to do that, correct? I mean, we didn't misunderstand this, right?
The understanding that if they had a Prudence Island transfer station sticker and they only had a residence on Prudence, they could use the transfer station here. It wasn't for them to have a house here on the mainland and use the transfer station for both houses.
Yeah, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the same physical pass that's used for both transfer stations, is it not? There's nothing specifying it's Prudence.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, you know, up until right now, nothing's changed. So if you buy an annual pass on Prudence Island or you buy an annual pass here on the mainland, it's the exact same pass. So there's no difference. And we didn't enforce any difference because you're paying the exact same price. So it didn't matter which one you used, it was the same price. And we didn't see that, in all deference to the people living on Prudence Island, there's not a great demand for people to get on the ferry and come and dump their trash in Headley. So it was just a way to make things easier for everybody. And we didn't see any great additional cost.
So I'll try and move this along so we can get some numbers going and try and straighten out that portion of, of business. So what I would like to do is make a motion to come up with a plan to have Prudence have their own enterprise fund, if you will, which would include a flat fee of $175 per household on Prudence. There'd be a $10 additional fee for placards, which is meant for use by the rentals, stays with the property, and the owner would have to buy their own pass as well. And there would be a $10 fee for a second pass. And also I would include that the only use that Prudence Island sticker holders would have would be for diversionary items at the Headley Street transfer station.
Is there a
Second.
So to reiterate, we've got establishing an enterprise fund, $175 per household, $10 for an additional sticker, and also $10 if you need to get a placard for your short-term rental or even weekly rentals, whatever.
And
Quick,
it's
quick,
not
quick
part of the motion,
question.
but if I could just say, John, just
Mhm.
it is with the understanding that we will still be supplementing this program because it's still not going to fund the whole program. And they're going to continue to use pay-as-you-throw bags there as well.
Yeah, that was my question. Is it technically an enterprise fund if in fact it is part of the town budget, which it is currently? And currently there's a subsidy from the town to keep that transfer station running.
Administratively, I think it would just be easier just to keep it the way it
Yeah,
is.
me too.
You
Yep.
have a revenue section in the general fund, which will now, instead of just incorporating the short-term sticker prices as revenue, it'll just be the revenue for the full price that they're going to pay. And then we still have the expenditure side separate as Prudence Island. So I think administratively, it's easier just to keep it the same.
Right. So
Right.
for-
Thank you,
in the
Rich. I
past,
agree.
The
completely.
290 had gone into the Headley Street station.
Yeah, so just for everybody listening, in the past, the revenue for the Prudence Island Transfer Station for the annual stickers that were bought went into the Headley Street Enterprise Fund. What's going to happen now is the annual price of the sticker will go into the Prudence Island revenue in the general fund. It's not that big a difference because quite frankly, only 90 stickers were being sold. This way, as I understand, and I think you're probably going to talk about this as well. I don't want to, steal your thunder, but I think the way I understood the ad hoc committee is there was going to be a fee for each of the households that was going to be, so each household would be assessed $175 fee. That way we make sure that we get the revenue for that station.
Correct, and that was part of the motion. The only correction is, the only thing I could add is it doesn't cover properties that are just bare land, raw land,
Correct.
just households only.
houses. Right.
So we, if I understand it, we are not looking to set up an enterprise.
Yeah.
What I would ask though is, on the same line that you've been speaking, Mr. Rayner, is it possible to have an accounting system for Prudence Island that's solely Prudence Island income expense?
Yeah, there already is. What made it complicated before is because it was this hybrid where you had revenues from Prudence Island going into an enterprise fund. This will make it a lot cleaner and easier, but the answer to your question is yes.
So all income and expense would be under the Prudence Island going forward, right? For
Correct.
accounting purposes. So it would be very easy when you look at that to determine the cost of the program as is, right?
Correct.
Great. Thank you.
Sean, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself real quick, and I'm going to ask Kathy to bring up Karen. I'm assuming that's Karen Stevenson.
Can you hear me?
We can now, thank Karen.
Okay, so Karen Stevenson, 23 Baldwin Road and 0542 Narragansett Avenue, Prudence Island. I have a question about the short-term rental placard. why, so don't I get one placard? If I have a property that's purely rental, it's purely seasonal. So why do I have to pay an additional $10 to get my renters, which are only there 6 to 8 weeks out of the year? Don't I get one, like I get in town, I get a sticker, and if a second vehicle, I get a second sticker.
The reason for the placard is you can't put the stickers on your renters. So it's just the cost of printing and establishing that placard for you.
Okay,
That's all.
okay,
That's it, Karen?
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
That was too easy, Karen. So the only thing that would change in my motion is we wouldn't call it an enterprise fund. It would be a Prudence Island Transfer Station Fund, if you will.
It's just, it's
Yep.
not even a fund, it's just accounting.
Accounting.
There'll be line items in
Yep.
in the chart of accounts for Prudence Island.
Okay.
Crazy accounting terms, but yeah.
Fine.
Nope. You've got that, right? Okay. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Yeah.
John, thanks so much for all the work you did in this whole area. I really appreciate it, and the committee does as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
And John, we'll work on the rest of the recommendations, but we got to get through the budget process first. We'll look at the ad hoc in terms of the composting. We'll work with DPW to see if there's a location that we could potentially do that, or even if it's at Farm or something. But
Okay. Thank
once
you.
we get through the budget, we'll start trying to tackle that, if you don't mind.
Yep, very good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John. Don't go too far, though, just in case we have more questions.
I'm here.
Thank you. All right, so next up, we're going to tackle
Transfer Station.
transfer station,
Yeah.
which is
Me.
you. Okay.
Okay.
So to be aware, when you're doing your numbers, we just took 26,000 as of last year's numbers. $26,970 out of the Hadley Street Transfer Station Fund.
Okay, so, I got some notes here. The transfer station currently is used by 40% of our current solid waste and recycling enterprise fund users, despite the fact that it's considered by some to be obsolete. As of January 26, it was believed, January of 2026, it was believed that enough funds were generated to cover the calendar year 25-26 costs to run the transfer station. However, on March 17th, an unaccounted for auditing error was reported to Councilors McDowell and myself, and to the town council sometime earlier this year to the town sometime earlier this year that revealed a new, I'll put quote unquote, new deficit of $86,000 in the transfer station fund. And this was just basically some accounting. There was money taken for fees prior to the year and just put in the wrong pot, if you will. Is that a fair assessment in some ways? But there was some catch up from previous years.
It was
You know,
mostly the change from the calendar year to the fiscal year. And
Right,
everybody had paid prior year, and they were prepaid items that weren't carried forward to cover the following year at the transfer station.
So the bottom line is in the recommendation for the sticker fee, the calculations were presented to the council to ask for a fee of $321 and $330 for a sticker if Prudence Island is removed from the Headley Street operations, which we've essentially just done. This covers the $86,000 debt. Before getting into suggestions and motions and recommendations, I'd like to thank the ad hoc committee. I'll have to hear it again. The members for all their work and contributions that I feel will make positive contributions to all the solid waste operations. Myself, Mary McDowell, David Reese, and Juan Carlos preceded me on the group. Juan Carlos Piero were active participants, along with Paul Rodericks, Gavin Lopes, Colby Kresge of DPW, Paul Kesson from the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, and especially I want to thank John Spadaro, because this really started around the focus of straightening out things on Prudence, and he was a major contributor. I want to thank him again for that. Also, Mr. Rayner, Kayla Marsden, and Matt Helfin for their invaluable contributions of dollars and cents and numeric data that they provided the committee. A lot of the data provided was analyzed to provide suggestions for possible changes to operations, primarily on Prudence Island, but with additional research could be utilized at Headley Street Transfer Station. The committee feels that looking at additional data could contribute to cost savings. And I think this will be I think the recycling committee is going to run with this in the future. There was also discussion about preventative maintenance at the facility. Concerns were raised about the existing electrical and hydraulic equipment and the potential for equipment failure. Is there currently a regimented preventive maintenance program? I'm not really sure, but if not, one should be established. Additional education and outreach to the user community needs to occur to raise our recycling rate and reduce the waste stream. To drive the disposal cost down with pay-as-you-throw, this was a lesser concern for the transfer station, but still could be improved upon. The pay-as-you-throw was not a popular item back when it was instituted, but the main effect is we've raised our recycling rate and lowered our disposal costs. Before I get into any motions, does anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns? So basically, I'd like to make a motion to get rid of this $86,000 debt as part of the transfer station cost. And suggestion is to, my motion would be to eliminate the second contracted worker within the transfer station. So right now, as it stands, that is an option to the town. You could argue whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, but that would take care of roughly the, I think he's $84,000 deficit.
So your suggestion that we ask the company that is managing the transfer station to not fund one of their employees?
Indirectly, yes, because it's offered, if I'm not mistaken, as an option to us. In other words, we asked for a price for a second man, and it was optional.
Okay, so then we'd have to go back and negotiate and get that into the contract, since
Or-
it was accepted.
I don't know if it's a negotiation or if it's, the contract gets renewed on a yearly basis and you renew that section, but I'm sure there would be some contract work.
The contract was 3 years with 2 renewals. So we're in the middle of the first year, or in the middle of the second year? Second year.
Second year.
Second of 3. So if we wanted to do that, they accepted the contract under the terms that we agreed to 18 months ago.
Correct.
So if we want to remove this, we either got to renegotiate and probably give them the 2 years.
That is highly likely, if they even agree to this at all. They're going to come back at us. It's a safety issue.
You know, in looking at this position, it just bothers me a lot that it was an optional position, and it was, when I read the description of what that person was going to do, it really is not happening at the transfer station. And it bothers me so much that anytime I go there, and unfortunately I go as a routine 3 times a week, different times a day to get rid of my recycling because I don't like it sitting around. The people there, for the most part, are sitting on their phones no matter what time of day. Now, most recently, within the last, I'd say 3 months, on occasion, because they've been alerted that Mary McDowell is very concerned about them sitting on the chair with their phone and not helping. So now when my car pulls up, they will stand up. And sometimes they go and ask someone, sometimes they don't. The last time I went and spoke to Rayo. And, you know, he came over to me, "Oh, you're Mary McDowell. Yep, I've heard about you. Yep." He says, I said, "Look, I'm not out to get anybody. I just want someone to do their job. This job was designated for helping people. Rail said, all they have to do is ask the gate attendant and they'll make sure they get help. That's not what this job was intended for. I think we really have to take a look at that. And if the company that we contract with is okay with people sitting 90% of the time on their phone, then we have the wrong company. And if they can't see that, then I don't know. And there've been a couple times where there's only been one employee there. So there, just last week, I think it was on Thursday or Friday, there was only one there. He said the other person wasn't there. So safety, I'm not sure I buy that. And I think that I've heard that when Waste Management was looking at this contract, they were only going to put one person there as well. So I don't mind if there's two people there and they're doing the job, but they are not doing their job. Please, please, please understand that. And for the amount of money we're paying, it's a travesty.
Back to you, Mr. Gleason.
As a motion on the floor, you had a second, right?
No. There was not a second. No. No.
Okay, I'm
Second.
sorry.
So the motion is to eliminate one of the positions, the second position, not obviously not the main position, second position.
Of the contractor,
Of-
this doesn't
of the contractor.
eliminate a gate guard
No,
or.
the
anything
gate
like
guards
that.
are
Right.
necessity.
Right.
They're the ones that are actually checking the stickers, so.
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-2.
Okay.
Mr. Hamilton and Ms. Blank.
Mr. Hamilton, Ms. Blank. Sorry, Madam Clerk.
Messing up that clerk's week.
I know.
Okay, so my second motion is to put the waste and diversion manager into the DPW staff and payroll to reduce costs to both the transfer station and the curbside programs. And I only make that recommendation because I know he has, our diversion manager has worked for the DPW over the summer. He seems to have a good position there and they are shorthanded. And this would help the finances, especially for the curbside program.
So you're increasing the staffing level at DPW and he will be able to, he won't be just a waste and diversion manager. He'll be able to be utilized by, waste and diversion will be his primary job, but he'd be able to be utilized by the director or deputy director to do other projects as well.
That would be great.
Second.
So what would the ratio be? Do we know?
I
Like,
think that's something they would have
kinda
to
savings
establish.
and-
I don't think we
I-
would want to
I
get
would
in the
think-
nitty-gritty.
We are 10 months into our curbside program. And if history from other towns who have established programs, things will shake out after the next year. And there'll be less headaches and more opportunity for Colby to do other projects. I don't think we should give it a 80-20 thing or 70-30 thing. I think this should be just managed by Paul and how much he needs Colby to do certain jobs.
Then I think we really have to take a look at then the job description, right, of the waste diversion manager.
Well, that's,
We'd be changing his job
It-
description.
it would be,
would be-
he would just be a DPW employee with a concentration on waste diversion management. And then Paul would be able to utilize him where he needs to. And if that's going out in truck or, sorry, Colby, plowing in the winter again.
That's very, very simple. Brian.
Mr. Reese. Sorry.
You just have to have the green light, my friend.
All right, well, that's the same thing basically that Brian Woodhead was doing and Paul Rodrigues was doing before he showed up. And it's just a few hours sometimes, attend the meetings.
I think it's more.
We're
than
trying
that,
to-
but yeah,
And we tried to streamline a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the accounting and all that, so.
no.
is, the whole reason we did this is because it was taking the deputy director of public works was working 100% of his time on the enterprise funds on trash. So this is why this came about. We used to have a waste and recycling coordinator. That was gone. Paul took it over, thinking along those lines, it would be essentially a part-time responsibility added to his job description, and it became a full-time job.
But the request now is to move the entire position, which would take it out of both the curbside and the transfer station fund,
That's correct.
and move it into DPW. So Paul, you get an extra employee total.
You might not want them.
Other towns
I
did
doubt
do,
that.
did do this after 3 years of starting a curbside program. You gotta understand, we got 3 programs here, not just one. And to utilize them in DPW, of course we could. As probably on the management side, there's no way you could put them into the contract with the workers there because there's 17 workers contracted and they all have CDLs.
Right, we could manage that. We can manage that,
So he would be a non-union employee.
correct.
Okay. Okay.
The reason I just want to backtrack, I don't think the transfer station is any kind of financial problem at this point. But I know the curbside program is, and I think this takes a chunk of money out of the enterprise fund. That'll help the sticker fee ultimately, the people that decide to use the curbside program.
Takes a chunk of money out of the curbside as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
One last motion, Mr. President.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is to set the transfer station fee at $320, which is an increase, with $20 per user going towards an equipment maintenance and repair fund, similar to what the Harbor Commission has set up for the boat motor funding. So in the event that you have some equipment go down, you'll have some type of surplus money, hopefully in 5 years, that could cover those expenses.
As of July 1.
Yeah.
Right.
In the next.
It wouldn't be the,
contract period.
you wouldn't start that until July 1st. These are all July 1st
Yes.
starts. So that would be roughly $44,000 a year into a maintenance fund.
Correct.
So we would do that before we know the impact of what we just did earlier, right? In terms of,
Well, they're establishing everything, and then when we get to the enterprise funds on Wednesday night, staff will have had the time tomorrow to digest all these numbers, put it into the spreadsheets and come back to us.
so it may not be
You might not make that
322,
money.
yeah.
I mean, it's, if you eliminate the $85,000, it's $86,000, the transfer station sticker actually comes in at less than $290, as I recall. So you've got $30 extra going into the program, 20, which would be earmarked for the maintenance fund. So I think there's going to be money in it, but obviously you'd have to take a look
Yeah.
at it.
Okay, thanks.
Was there a second for the $320 sticker fee with $20 of each fee going into the repair fund? Just for the transfer station?
You need the second before you can.
Oh, second.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
All
don't,
right.
I just.
Is this for transfer station? Okay.
Yeah, Chris Carceller, 63 Leaps Road. Just a quick question about the 320. You were just talking about the waste diversion manager. If you're taking that out of the enterprise fund and putting it onto the budget side, that 320 would change then, correct?
It could.
Okay.
If we have to change, if when staff comes back Wednesday with new numbers, we could adjust that
Got
number.
it.
And if that number, if Mr. Gleason's goal is that $44,000 to $20 for 2,200 people.
Okay.
If we have to drop it to 310 and
Okay, so 320 is not the number you're focusing on, the $20 you were focusing more on, right? Like that going into the fund
Yeah,
to help.
yeah, I hadn't thought about that concept, that you're actually taking part. I think the split is maybe 30%, 30 versus 70. I'm not really sure how his time is spent
60,
now.
40.
40, okay. So there is a savings
We'll-
there.
we'll
Right.
see. So the numbers
But-
may come back different.
Yep, that's fine.
If you would want to wait till Wednesday night to set the sticker fee, we can do that as well. if you want to hold off until we get the numbers back from staff.
We have enough, we know enough to be dangerous here. Why don't you let us present the enterprise funds with these motions to do that,
Okay,
establishing a maintenance line, and that way we can give you a definitive, this is what the price should.
all right, that's fine.
To your point, it might be 290 plus, so it could be 310, or it
Yeah.
could be 280 plus and be 300.
Sure.
So.
So I retract my motion.
And if you retract your second, sir,
I retract my second.
thank you. All right,
Okay,
that's it for you now.
let's move on to
Okay,
curbside.
now we're gonna go to curbside, and Mary, this is your baby.
Yeah, it's, thanks. So prior to the most recent RFP that was issued, the town of Portsmouth went out for bid twice for curbside collection with no award made. Beginning in 2017, our town looked at a variety of different options, ranging from a single hauler model with a transfer station that would manage bulky waste and diversion disposal, a single hauler only, two separate waste disposal programs, curbside and transfer station. At different points throughout the process, several combinations were discussed, eliminating pay-as-you-throw for curbside, container sizes of 90 or 95 gallon totes or 60, 65 gallons, leaf and yard debris only at curbside, etc. The combination seemed limitless. Finally, on January 29, 2024, an RFP was issued with a response date of March 28, 2024. And in April of 2024, we had an agreed-upon RFP with Mega. The contract was not finalized, however, until the beginning of January 2025, with a start date of July 1st, 2025. While some aspects of the new curbside program have been smooth, other aspects have presented us with our current fiscal dilemma. We have fallen significantly below our target participation rate based on town predictions, resulting in an enterprise program which in its first year of operation is realizing a deficit of over $250,000. This deficit must be absorbed by the approximately 3,300 present participants. As a result, the projected sticker price for curbside for the 26-27 fiscal year is anticipated to be around $622. Efforts have been made by the town to reach out to those who are not signed up for either solid waste disposal program with the hope of enlisting more residents for the curbside. The reality, however, is that we do not reach our participation goals. This program could potentially see sticker prices rise yearly. I am hoping that what Mr. President said and what Mr. Rayner has voiced, that, this is growing pains, it will level out. That is the hope. The Ad hoc Solid Waste Committee has looked at our different solid waste programs to determine if there are any cost efficiencies, operational efficiencies, or financial accounting processes which could make our programs more effective in meeting the continual challenges that are unique to each program. Curbside presented us with the biggest challenge. What could the town of Portsmouth consider to reduce costs for our residents, which ultimately could attract more resident signups? The following were considered by the ad hoc committee in reviewing the present curbside program. The first consideration, we met briefly, Mr. Rayner and others and our solicitor, to talk about the possibility of reopening the curbside contract. As Mr. Rayner indicated at that meeting, there is no appetite on the part of Mega to do so. However, I believe that there are clauses in the contract that will allow us to at least sit down with them and discuss that program. The RFP was based on 4,000 participants, which was not met by the town, which i.e. means that our contract was based on more. We didn't meet it. So there could be a reason, and a good reason, to reopen the curbside contract. The second consideration that the committee came up with was to consider, and it's already been mentioned and voted on, consider reducing or eliminating the waste diversion manager for at least a year and potentially using that hire in the DPW workforce. The third one is to bring clarity to the continual truck lease discussions and potentially put the truck back into the original intent from the RFP. And when we mentioned that, there are sections of the RFP that talk about the truck, and that is on page 11C6. It says this, and I wrote to Mr. Gavin in February, I believe, with some questions, and this was the question. I had a question because it went back and forth in the discussions regarding this truck in the open public discussions. And Mr. Gavin's responded to me in this way. The small truck was purchased by the contractor for use in this program to service residents who otherwise would not have been able to participate due to the size and location of their private ways, with its cost incorporated into the operational cost of the contract. The town is not directly paying for the truck. Rich has informed me that he and Brian Woodhead are actively reviewing the issue with the contractor and working towards eliminating or reducing this cost from the program. So my understanding back then was it was eliminated because I hadn't heard anything more on that. So that is still a consideration that we have to look into. The next is to institute a pay-as-you-throw program for curbside that could potentially reduce costs for a considerable number of present users, while at the same time reducing the amount of solid waste and increasing our recycling rates. The curbside users are generating more trash and less recyclables than the transfer station based on current RIRAC data. I had thought that there was going to be a Mr. Rayner's calculation up here, but they did a calculation for the 25-26 curbside program with a pay-as-you-throw option, and sticker prices were determined from that calculation. The next one, continue to explore creative ways to increase participation, which must include reaching out to condominiums and commercial accounts, and Mega must be part of these conversations. And establish the long-term goal of providing curbside pickup to all residents funded through the town budget, with the possibility of Headley Street Transfer Station for waste diversion items such as metals, cardboard, yard waste, etc. And that goes hand in hand with Prudence Island Planning Commission's recommendation, one of his number 10 under his recommendations, where we begin to develop a program to possibly look at putting it into the tax base. So those were the things that were discussed with the curbside. Unfortunately, there are no motions that are going to be coming forth from this because we're still in the first year, but I think we really have to look at some of these considerations that have been mentioned.
I'll try that again. Okay. So I have a couple questions. One, pay as you throw. If we were to institute that, would we use the same bags and just split it 60-40, the revenue? Or we would have to have two separate bags?
I think it would be problematic to use two different bags.
Okay.
So we would just apportion the revenue and the expenses based on the number of sticker sales.
So let's just assume the numbers that were out tonight are 22, 33, 55.
Yeah, whatever that
50-40.
ratio is.
Okay. All right. As far as putting it back into the taxes, I have long stated that's my goal, is to put it back into taxes. We cannot, one of the uses of going over the tax cap is not to implement a new program like trash. So it would have to be a long-term add-on where if we could find $100,000 or $200,000 a year to roll into the taxes, and in a course of 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it is, it's finally fully into taxes. So it's not something that we can just say, okay, next year we're going to raise taxes by an extra $2.2 million and it's all in the tax base. It won't pass the General Assembly, unfortunately. Although stranger things have passed the General Assembly. I think we should continue to have conversations with Mega every day about bettering the contract and doing things better. So,
what would that look like to you?
me,
Yeah.
it would mean that the staff continues what they're doing now, but maybe holds their feet to the fire a little bit more. I will say that the email that came out from Mega to all of our customers, because they're the town's customers and the Mega is providing a service, it was disturbing that they should not have gone directly to our customers to say, hey, don't forget to re-up and pay us your money. Hopefully nobody did that. So I think there are plenty of ways to do, there should be a discussion with Mega to straighten out some of these things, including multiple missing neighborhoods, yard waste not being picked up, all that stuff.
So I take back that there will be no motion associated with this. I would like to make a motion that we sit down officially with Mega to discuss those concerns as well as what we can do to make this better in terms of fiscally appropriate for our residents.
We can advise them to come in. Go ahead, Dave, you want to make the second on that? Or-
Yeah, I'll make a second. And I also,
Okay.
now we have to, a
Go
second.
ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Second. We gotta, as part of this, we gotta sit down with the solicitor and really go through the contract so that we're all aware of what we have to, see what we can change and what's flexible.
And I'll go, and as the second part of number one is on us, not on them. We didn't come up with the 4,000. So it's not their fault that we didn't get there. That's on us. That wasn't their number, that's our number.
No, that was our number. yeah.
So. Question on the motion or just in general?
About something on here.
Yes.
Chris Carseller, 63 Leaps Road. Number 3, I've brought up with all of you, including Mr. Rayner, in reference to that truck for $48,000 a year. I agree with Mary. That was the conversation last year that was talked about. I questioned it over and over. And I was left to believe last year that it was coming out because it was not part of the RFP. It says right in the RFP, states that all equipment would be provided by Mega. And then all of a sudden, a $48,000 a year truck ends up in that budget. We discuss it over and over and pretty much told, oh, it's going to be taken out. I kind of believed everybody. Then this year it's there. I questioned it and they said, well, it was brought up afterwards and it's there now. So that's too bad. Is it too bad? I mean, why did the RFP, did every company get the same thing that they would also get a $48,000 truck? Because maybe it was included in their contract with you, whether it be Waste Management or whoever else put in for the RFP. Because I feel like we gave Mega another $48,000 a year to give them a truck. For 5 years, that's $250,000 for a truck. That's crazy. And we're paying for that for curbside. Just for how many people? I don't even know how many people we are using that truck for, but that's crazy.
I just have if something is not in writing though about that, then, and I never ever saw anything from Mr. Gavin after the fact. The way he left it was it's going to be taken out. So that would have to be an amendment to the RFP. And I didn't see anything like that.
Right, and is this what we do with other RFPs? Do you have an RFP, put it out for bid, you make a deal with somebody, and then you add in $48,000 a year? I don't think that's right. And I just don't understand how that works, because we're paying for that on curbside, $48,000 a year. So I wish we would look into that, and I wish we would look at looking at the contract. Mistakes we're making last year, and you gotta fix it, because we're at 620 this year, maybe a little bit less if we're moving the waste diversion manager. But what's it going to be next year? Because a bunch of us are going to the transfer station. It's a fact. So,
Well, it was a fact that was brought up last year, but actually the transfer station numbers went down. So, yep, the curbside will go down next year. Mr. Renner, you want to respond to the $48,000 in the amendment?
Yeah, I can't rewrite history. The truck is added in because the town, we made a request that they would service residents on small, inaccessible, and private roads. 2 contractors were brought in. The first one was Waste Management. The second one was Mega. Waste Management would have done the same thing. People on small, inaccessible, and private roads would have had to take their bins to the nearest accessible road, which is what's done in Middletown. So it was our request that they do this, and that was the cost that was associated, and we agreed to it. Obviously, the council agreed to the contract as well. We have gone to them numerous times, and we want them to take that truck out of the contract, but the truck has been bought, right? So I will gladly sit down with them and set up another meeting. I appreciate all the conversation that's come out tonight. They will absolutely know the council's feeling on this. And we'll see what kind of movement we can make on this. But the truck is there because we asked for it.
Question. Mr. Solicitor, I know this, I don't know, but it may have been that Mr. Sicilione knows more about this than you do, but in your opinion, have you looked at this contract and know whether we could actually open it up or do anything different that were to save money on the curbside program? I mean, obviously.
Somewhat. I have. The Geo had me look at one issue in particular. Counselor Mary has some interesting language in there that can be used, but Solicitor Geo told me that they said pound sand unless you extend the contract. Now, there is one way out, foolproof way out, that we have the absolute right to do. The only foolproof way out immediately, don't fund it. You don't fund trash. If you don't appropriate for this, they have no right to the contract. That's crystal clear. What does that mean? It means you could not fund it or appropriate for the full year. You're not going to do that and just get out right now with, you could not fund it for a half year. You could appropriate half the amount, hold their feet to the fire, demand cost savings, and there's many provisions in there that talk about potential cost savings that if they're not unreasonable, you're supposed to work with the contractor and lower the cost. And then after 6 months, you could either take the rest of the money that you've appropriated in the contingency fund, or you could say, you're not saving us any money, we're going in a different direction. Don't know what that direction would be, but the only direction that works under the contract is to get out. You can't go out to bid for somebody else. You can't figure out a way where the town is in the trash collection business like this in a different way. You would have to, they go private. And the threat of that could be what brings them to the table. But other than that, you can negotiate. They've said pound sand. The manager's going to do it. Geo's been trying to do it. And there's definite provisions in that contract that contemplate changed circumstances and reasonable negotiation to reduce costs. But if they say no, that's it. You're stuck with this contract unless you fail or agree not to appropriate and get out of the trash business for a year, half year, whatever you appropriate. As far as, and that was the issue Geo had me look at. Is there any way we can just get out? And that's the only way to just get out without negotiation.
There's a 30-day out in the contract, correct? If we do a 30-day out, the cost for all the bins becomes immediately due, correct?
I don't see any way to just get out and cancel without penalty. I don't know what that penalty would be. Can't cancel the contract,
Right.
no. They're entitled to all their money for the whole time, subject to those, unless you don't give them the money and you get out of the business, fail to appropriate.
That's beside the point. We still would have to pay for all of the bins that are around town. The town would be on the hook for those bins.
I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure of that.
The
You
town
could
would
just
be on
fail
the
to-
hook for those bins.
I'm not sure of that, Mr.
Okay.
President, not sure. You could fail to appropriate. You could appropriate for 6 months see where these negotiations led, and if they didn't lead where you wanted, you could do something else. I'm not sure about the cost of the bins. Didn't say that in the provision I looked at.
Thank you. Sounds like a pretty radical approach, but I would support, an additional meeting like you proposed to start looking at other solutions. But I do think we would be on the hook for the bins.
Mr. Carcella.
Sal Carceller, 63 Leaps Road. I think I know the answer, but I have a question. How many other townships in Rhode Island offer what we offer to residents, a dual programs? Meaning curbside or
Well, in
something
terms
else?
of dual program, I mean, Middletown has two programs. So either you're in there, pay as you throw, curbside pickup, or you go private. I don't think Little Compton has just the transfer station. Tiverton is all curbside. Barrington is their own. Bristol has their own pickup.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That was without looking at every single township, but so when we talk about how things worked out in other towns, I'm just going to warn that we need to be really, really careful because what we have is not what other towns have. We have something very, very different. So what I foresee is when you offer anybody a choice of A or B, that individual is going to pick the choice that best suits their needs.
Mhm.
But the town has to still support both choices. So I'm going to make a prediction. It's very possible that curbside will continue to lose at $600+ Some people are not going to be able to afford it. And it could be the straw that breaks the back. And they just say, you know what, I'm going to go over to the transfer station. And we could wind up in a really bad situation because you're going to wind up with curbside costs out of control. Next year, you'll be under $3,000, maybe $2,500 if the price approaches $1,000. And then you're going to get double whammied because the transfer station is going to be completely overburdened.
Continue, sorry.
So I guess I don't know the answer. I'm just statistically looking at this, that we're headed for possibly a really bad disaster.
I would disagree with you in the fact that granted, there were people who were paying less, but the majority of people in the curbside program were paying close to $800 to $900 a year with their previous suppliers. Anyways, the cost next year will go down because we won't have the. No, that's okay.
No.
It's much more important for them to get where they're going. The cost will go down. I don't think there'll be as much of a mass exodus from curbside to the transfer station. We heard the same thing last year. And the number of people who said, forget it, I'm going to go transfer station, and the transfer station numbers went down from the previous year. So I go back to the fact that we have a good amount of people who just aren't choosing to use either one, even though they were using either or in the past, either private or the transfer station.
Okay.
So will people? Sounds like your pickup truck is going to be going to the dump.
Yeah, more than likely.
But
Yeah.
give us until Wednesday because there are new
Yeah.
numbers that have to come out and the 622 is likely to go down.
Absolutely. My only purpose to come here was just to point out that when we really shouldn't be saying that it's going to pan out and it's going to work out like it did in other communities, when what we have here is a unicorn. It's very different than other communities.
It is.
So
It is.
that's all. That was my only.
And that was because there was a big push to save the transfer station because there was a thought process that curbside was going to close the transfer station, which it wasn't intended to do.
Right.
But to appease as many people as possible, we kept two programs.
Yep.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal. Appreciate the comments. We have a motion on the floor to ask Mr. Rayner to approach Mega Waste to review the contract, all of its attributes, and to see if there's any cost savings to be shown in there. That is not going to happen by Wednesday. I can tell you that. However, can you please, with the changes that were made to the, well, let's start with that. Do we have a motion? A second. All those in favor of asking staff?
I could. So the intent is a meeting with just Mr. Rayner, solicitors, MEGA.
It would be probably with Paul, Rich, and a lawyer to
Okay.
review the contract.
And we have a counselor present, the head of the ad hoc committee.
You'd have to
I
add
mean,
that to the motion. I
would you
don't, I
consider-
don't particularly recommend having staff, having a counselor, because then they stop negotiating with the solicitor and the administrator, and they just negotiate directly with the council because they think that they can pull heartstrings.
Well, then
No.
maybe you should take that role.
Nope.
I would have to say I disagree with that. I've been involved in contract negotiations, and that hasn't panned out that way with me. So I think I think a
but-
counselor is important to be at the table with Mega, the solicitor, town administrator. In fact, I think 2 counselors should be at the table.
So you'd have to add that to your
Yeah.
motion.
Why is this not a violation of the charter?
I don't think it is at all. And where I come from, and 20 years of city experience, always had a council person there. And frankly, if you say we're going to negotiate with the counselor, that was a good thing. Want to negotiate with Mary? See what you get. So I have no issue with this as far as the charter or 1 or even 2 council members sitting at the table. But I would advise as part of this motion, there's really 2 meetings that whoever's sitting in meet as a town first before meeting with Mega, get the negotiating position, what we're asking for, what the legal rights we have, and then we go in and meet with Mega. But as far as a counselor sitting in, I think that's usual practice.
Okay, but again, I'll go back to, that's not going to happen before Wednesday. So the motion on the floor right now is to reopen, to approach MEGA and reopen the contract. Period. That was motion on the floor. And look for cost savings. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Now that is off the table. Wednesday night, it is going to be Mr. Rayner and Kayla's responsibility to bring back new curbside numbers based on the changes that were made with the waste diversion person, and also whether or not we do pay as you throw or no pay as you throw. That'll be part of the budget process.
So
I do think, though, a pay-as-you-throw program for curbside we should have a public meeting just on that and just get
That is
feedback.
Wednesday night.
That's included with the budget. Okay.
We have to establish a budget going forward here. We cannot just continue to kick the can down the road until
not kicking
July
the
1st
can.
rolls around and we don't have any money to pay for the
And we
program.
can't jump into things either, the way we do sometimes. That's how I feel.
Okay, we're not jumping into the curbside program. We're establishing the cost for the curbside sticker next year. Looking at curbside has certainly not been jumped into. It's taken us 10 years to get to this point. So,
I'm talking about pay-as-you-throw, the implementing that.
okay, if you want to skip that, we can look at doing that for the next year. We can either do one of 2 things. Staff can bring back the cost of the 622 going down based on the waste diversion manager coming out and any other changes that we have made. Or they can bring back 2 proposals, one with pay as you throw and one with the current. And you can look and say, okay, well, if pay as you throw is $150 cheaper per sticker, that helps those folks who are single person households, as opposed to folks who are 4, 5, 6 person households who are going to pay a little bit more because they have to buy more bags. So I think bringing both options forward is a responsible measure if you want to go with the recommendations in your slide. But
Would you like that in the form of a motion?
asking the staff to bring back both?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. Staff, could you bring back the pay-as-you-throw option for the curbside as well as the new price based on the modifications made tonight?
Of course.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes
Thank you, Mr. Rayner.
6-0? 5-6-0. Thank you.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So why weren't we able to make an amendment to the motion to add counselors?
We can make a second motion.
Do it separately?
There was not a motion made forward, but we can do it separately if you want to.
I was just curious.
I would like to make a motion that we meet as our solicitor has indicated as a group, which includes 2 counselors in this discussion group, negotiating group, whatever you want to call it. We meet first and then we ask to have a meeting with Mega to discuss ways in which we can relook at the contract for fiscal efficiencies and bring down costs.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And I'd be glad to join in with Ms. McDowell in that negotiating committee.
Sounds good.
Are we good with trash for now? Mr. Rayner, Kayla, you have your marching orders for Wednesday. Next up, Ms. Marsden, is your throat good?
I'm going to try my best.
Okay. Our monthly finance report.
Good evening, Mr. President and Honorable Council. As of the end of March, the town was 9 months or 75% through fiscal year 26. Year-to-date general fund revenues were at 77.73% of the budget, primarily driven by tax receipts, state aid, mooring fees, and interest income. Year-to-date general fund expenditures were at 73.5% of the budget. Significant cost drivers there were the quarterly pension contributions and the remaining snow removal expenses. Performance continues to trend favorably. Revenues and expenditures are still being monitored on a weekly basis, and discretionary spending is still frozen. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Marsden? Hopefully not, so she can rest her voice. Do I have a motion to receive and place on file?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up, we have new business. Request approval of the 8th grade
Mr.
Class.
President, should we receive the school finance report and place on file as well?
if you would like. I don't think there's a really need to.
Okay.
No, that's their report. That's just there for FYI,
I think
for
I've done
our
that.
information.
Thank you.
I think, yeah. Request for approval of 8th grade class St. Philomena to have a campfire on Sandy Point Beach, June 4th, from 2 p.m. until sunset. Miss Abbott, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
When did your little daughter get taller than you?
It's not, about a year ago.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yes.
That's, not even close to being little.
Nope.
I'm walking
And my
around
son's
like
gonna
that.
pass me next, so I'll be the shortest
Look,
human in my house.
there you go.
Daniela Abbott, 213 Leaps Road.
So you're looking to have a bonfire and a picnic on Sandy Point on June 4th.
Yes, we did this 2 years ago, if you recall. The 8th graders are graduating. They go after lunch at like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, the last week of school, and just have a little get together on the beach, have a fire, and then go home at sunset. We do work with Wendy to secure a lifeguard, and we get a sizable liability insurance policy. And
We use plain wood, nothing but nails or anything on it.
plain wood, and we actually used a fire pit last time too that we just kind of brought onto the beach.
Beautiful. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? But motion passes 6-0.
Thank
you
you.
very
I appreciate
much.
it. Have a good evening.
You too. New business number 2. Proposed revised exit and entry routes for Polo. Mr. Keating, there he is. I understand you guys had a nice showing last night on the Real Housewives of Rhode Island, huh? Congratulations.
After 35 years of doing this, if that's my crowning glory,
I hope it is not.
hope it is not, Elsa.
What do you have for us, sir?
Well, we'd like to look at the entrance and the exits of Glen Farm, the section that we use, and propose a new entrance system and exit system so that we can facilitate traffic, but also make it safer, allow for rescue and police vehicles to get in and out and more efficiently, and also protect the public a little bit by hardening the edge. Right now, we have an S-turn that goes through where the main gate where people come through, and it mixes a lot of cars and traffic and people in picnic spaces. So what we'd like to do is wrap the traffic around, keep the traffic entirely to one side of everybody picnicking, and kind of wrap it around and kind of harden the edge of that western edge, so that we don't have people mixing cars and picnickers. The issue is that we would, in this plan, change the entrance by altering the historic wall. So that's kind of something that I dragged my feet about for about 2 years on this plan, just because I didn't want to even propose that. But looking at other alterations that have happened on the upper part of Glen Farm, including the front entryway and the passages between the different fields that have become crosswalks, they do create a safer environment than the thing. So,
And this is something you're looking to get started on to get in place for this year?
well, my masons are coming back from the Azores. Well, they're back and they're looking to start next May, but I was planning on them being on my farm. But since this came up at this time, we could do it for this year.
Any questions for Mr. Keating? I'll ask Chief Peters and Paul, have you both reviewed this and you're okay with it? You just nod, that's okay. Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I think you've mentioned it. You're going to pay for all the stone walls.
Oh,
Work
absolutely.
will be
Yeah.
done in like fashion to what's there now.
Right,
Okay.
and probably add a couple more lindens so that we can, looking at small leaf lindens to match up.
Sure. So motion to approve the plan for the changes at the Polo fields.
Second.
Any further questions? Ms. McDowell?
Yeah, I just have I had a resident contact me about the traffic there a while back, and Mr. Rayner had said that we were working on it. She did talk a lot about people using the access road to get to the booth, and neighbors telling people to use the access road. Is there some remedy for that?
The access road, are you talking about Glen Farm Road?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. Our address is 250 Linden Lane. And what happened is we made that just by traveling down and like coordinating it with Google. And what would happen is when there was a traffic jam coming down Linden Lane, it would reroute traffic all the way down through the neighborhood.
Right.
And what we were able to do is move the address without changing the address with the organizations like Apple and Google to the front of East Main Road.
Okay.
So now when there's traffic beyond, to the east of that, it's still, it doesn't route people through there, because we asked people, why did you come this back way? We figured it's kind of like the celebrity entrance. We use the for people who know and, like neighbors and things like that. And they were like, we were routed that way through our GPS. So we've been able to move that through. And I've talked to some of the neighbors, and apparently they're very happy. They've noticed a change. And it was also, not only was it bad for the neighbors, it was be difficult for rescue and things like that. It was a
She
problem.
mentioned that too, there's
Yeah.
the problem with the emergency vehicle.
So what we attempted to put some signs there, but they didn't meet the sign ordinance saying no Polo entry there. But we'd like to maybe figure out how to put that there for people so that it meets the sign ordinance. So
She also talked about the possibility of a detail, police detail. Is
Well,
there a possibility there?
there is, but there are two entrances to the Glen Farm Road. So, which way are you going to put that? So the other issue is that We'll take all the details we can get in the summer on a Saturday afternoon, and sometimes we're cut short. Because, you know, there's only so many Saturdays in the summertime, and so a lot of times the detail is officers from Tiverton or Bristol or other places. So we've talked to the chief about actually increasing the police presence, having more police presence, and also starting earlier and ending later, just to make sure we have public safety kind of going. We're kind of, as we grow a little bit each year, you know, we're starting to run into problems, which we have. And, you know, we also, this year, we're going to institute a capacity issue too. We're going to stop, you know, having tickets. Yeah. And that's really because we want to protect the experience. And, you know, but sometimes we also interview people and say, why did you come on this game? And they say, well, you know, it was my first time and everything. And it's like, why would you come in the busiest game of the year, you know? Because for us, also creating the systems that, you know, like bathrooms and, you know, parking and all the stuff that goes into it, we're not set up to do like these strange peaks that happen without being prepared for them. So we'd rather just have everything nice and even.
Right.
You know?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote.
Okay, I just have a follow-up question. I wanted to kind of, when we do that, we want to have the design kind of consistent with the other elements inside the farm. So is there a route I should go with that to?
Work with Paul at the DPW.
Okay, Paul. Okay, all right, great.
Because he's been working with the,
Because there's some themes, like some of the entrances have these beehive pillars,
Mhm.
and then some of the internal don't. They have like more of a simpler.
work with Paul. They can,
Okay, great. All right. Thank you all.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck with the season.
Thank you.
Next up is a request approval of resolution requesting immediate reform to the ISO New England Day Ahead Ancillary Services Initiative. This is what was brought forth to us last year, last meeting, about the extra 2 or 3 cents added on just because they felt like doing it. So I would like to ask for this to be, I gave the language to Gio, who whipped it up before or maybe on the plane, I'm not sure, before he went on vacation. Pass this, send it off not only to our governor, the PUC, our state legislators, and also the other 5 New England governors to see if we can't get this changed to lower the rates for our consumers.
I'm going to support your resolution, but can you explain it better for the listeners at home?
I can try. The Day Ahead Service Initiative was designed to figure out the load capacity that might happen the next day.
Right.
So in order to do that and put it in place, it's costing the utility companies or the power aggregators 2 to 3 cents more per kilowatt hour. So the goal of stripping this back out is to help hopefully lower the cost of electricity down by 2 to 3 cents.
Right.
So we shall see.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up is a request to perpetually proclaim April 24th, since we do this every year anyways, as Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day, and fly the Armenian flag in the council chambers on the day every year.
Which is still up since we didn't have a
Sweet.
meeting.
We did it already for the 24th, so it is there. Do we have a motion to approve the perpetual hanging of the flag?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up, request for approval for Sandy Point Beach proposed parking fee schedule, elimination of 4-pack passes and increasing stickers from 2 households to 3 households. Ms. Bowl is here. Or are there questions, Mr. Rayner? It's relatively straightforward.
Right. This hasn't been addressed since before COVID. It does not affect any Portsmouth residents. Fees are only charged to non-residents, and they can only be charged when there is a lifeguard present. We're proposing that we increase the rate from $15 to $20 on Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, holidays, $25. We would also implement new fees for larger vehicles like the shuttles and minibuses that have been coming. They're much larger, they take up more space, so those would be 40, and then 50 Friday through Sunday and holidays. Also, during COVID, we restricted the number of passes per household to 2. So what we're proposing is that we open that back up to 3.
I do have one question. Sure. So this is all cash sales at the beach, pretty much,
Exactly.
and we feel comfortable with that as it,
I don't.
as it goes.
We've done a poll. Cash is being accepted all
Everywhere.
over. There's just there's no easy way to get around this. We have implemented controls. There is daily accounting. There are receipts that are turned into finance. But this is where we're at.
Is it possible to have any type of lockbox situation? Where the money just went into the ground or into a metal box that's attached somewhere to the building and it's collected at the end of the day?
We can certainly, look into something like that.
I don't know. I remember the incident from years past. We had some issues. I have no idea. It just came to mind. It seems like a lot of cash.
Well, I mean, now the accounting is based on the passes handed out, and if 20 passes are handed out, $1,000 better come in, or should be non-resident daily, $500 better come back.
Yeah.
So if passes started at 1 and you hand it out to 20, you're responsible for that amount. Otherwise, it comes out of your check
Comfortable
or
with
you're
it?
fired.
That's how it is accounted for right now, is passes 1
Okay.
through 20. We make sure there's 20 tickets sold.
Okay.
We do accounting every day. and
You're
that
comfortable with it? I just wanted to ask the question.
I mean, if we went to lack of a better term, an iPad system or a cube system, we would lose 3 to 5% on the fee.
Not only the costs associated with that, but there's no connectivity.
Right, it would have to be a cube on a phone.
Right.
And it's easier for somebody not to swipe a card than it is, and to let them in than it is to actually have the passes. It's an age-old problem at beaches. And I do agree that obviously that issue 6, 7 years ago is a concern, but I don't think we haven't had that in the past few years since then. Ms. McDowell?
Yeah, I am very uncomfortable with the cash, but if that's the only way we can do it without decreasing, revenue, I guess. I just think it's a big liability for the town. I'm also wondering, do other towns that have beaches, are they all cash? Do we know? Has anybody looked into that?
There are some areas that will accept cashless payment, but most of them are accepting cash.
Most beaches?
Yes.
Question, Wendy, maybe you can answer this. Is there a reason why it's not Monday and Tuesday if we're charging for Wednesday?
No, not enough lifeguards. We
Not
can only
enough
charge when
lifeguards.
there's lifeguards on duty.
Okay, thank you.
And unfortunately, kids don't want to be lifeguards these days. Weird, isn't it? Get paid to sit on the beach,
day.
watch the water.
So I have a question on that, the tax. So if you're giving out the passes, is that how you pay the tax?
Yeah, that's because they put a 7% sales tax on last year on all parking fees.
Right, but I'm saying, so if you give out 20 passes, you're paying tax on those 20?
Correct. So technically the parking fee is the 1869. But the tax comes back to the town. We have to account for it upstate and then they send us a check back. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's efficient.
Isn't it though? You can blame / thank Mayor Smiley for that because he didn't want to pass general revenue sharing and get himself $6 million. He did taxes on parking fees and got 3. How'd that work out? Anyways, there's a
Motion to
motion
approve the new Sandy Point proposed parking fees.
and stickers and parking passes for residents as well, up from 2 to 3.
And parking passes for residents from 2 to 3.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next up, the approval of the letter of support for Bristol in their litigation against Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority. It's actually it's a request from their lawsuit is against them not following the Freedom of Information Act or access to public records. So this is the letter that was put together based on our conversation 2 meetings ago? 2 meetings ago, yeah. So, any questions or concerns? Anybody okay with it? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And finally, new business number 7, presentation and submission for review of the town administrator's proposed budget fiscal year. We are going to review opening statements and then also review the revenues.
Just wait for Kathy to bring up the brief.
Mr. Attorney, could I just, can we take a 5-minute recess, if you don't mind?
I don't
Just to allow? Thank you.
I'm doing fine. No, they think you were he votes so you can go back. I wanted to make sure you heard everything. Oh. No, I think you don't. No, for the things that I thought. Well, you suppressed. Some people say there are some. Yeah, well, certainly. Because you never think this out. Oh,
So you can leave it right there. No. Okay, folks, we're gonna get back going here. Mr. Rayner, fire away, sir.
All right, good evening again. This presentation I'm about to present outlines the town's proposed fiscal year 27 budget. Just as a disclaimer, since the budget was first developed, we did receive updated information on state housing aid. So as a result, the proposed levy increase was reduced from 3.95% to approximately 3.03%. We've also incorporated adjustments to assess property values following recent property owner meetings, resulting in an updated tax rate. This proposal reflects a balanced general fund budget of approximately $79.1 million, representing a 2.6% overall increase. This budget has been developed over the past 9 months with a focus on fiscal discipline, maintaining essential services, and building potential capacity to manage long-term obligations. We have worked to absorb significant cost pressures, particularly in healthcare, while limiting overall growth in both municipal and school spending. Overall, this proposal reflects a deliberate and responsible approach to balancing service needs with the impact on taxpayers. Next slide. So here's the schedule moving forward. The public hearing will be on June 10th, and final adoption is scheduled for June 22nd. Next slide, please. The proposed fiscal year 27 general fund budget is approximately, as I said, $79.1 million, representing a 2.6% increase over last year. The proposed tax rate is $9.85 per thousand, which reflects a 25.8% decrease over this current year due to the recent revaluation. The total levy increase is approximately 3.03%, which remains below the state cap and generally in line with or below current inflation, actually below current inflation. This budget supports education, municipal services, public safety, and capital investments. Next slide, please. So in this slide, we compare the current residential tax burden across Rhode Island municipalities based on median home values. As you can see, Portsmouth falls in the middle third of communities statewide and is just about at the median. That positioning has been relatively consistent and reflects a balanced approach to maintaining services while managing the impact on taxpayers. Next slide, please. This chart shows that Portsmouth's current residential tax rate falls in the middle range and remains competitive among Rhode Island municipalities, which is consistent with what we saw previously in terms of the overall tax burden. Next slide. When we compare specifically the full-service communities, i.e. those communities that operate a professional police, professional fire, public works, and school systems, Portsmouth's residential tax rate remained in the middle range. Next slide. And what this slide shows is Rhode Island municipalities broken out by median household income. Portsmouth is among the higher income communities in the state. This provides important context when comparing tax burden and service levels across municipalities, as higher income communities often have different service expectations and cost structures. Next slide, please. And as you can see here, Portsmouth ranks among the top 10 municipalities in Rhode Island by median household income. This places us among a group of peer communities that typically have similar budgetary needs and constraints. Next slide. This view looks at median family income, which is another way to understand relative economic conditions across communities. Portsmouth again falls among the higher income municipalities, reinforcing the importance of comparing ourselves to similar peer communities when evaluating service levels and tax burden. Next slide, please. Portsmouth is also among the top 5 communities of the top 10 in Rhode Island for median family income, reinforcing our position among peer communities with similar focus on balance, quality of service, and fiscal responsibility. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the primary drivers behind the fiscal year 27 budget. One of the most significant changes since our January discussion is the increase in healthcare costs. We were initially planning a much lower increase, but in late March, we were notified that health insurance premiums would increase by approximately 16.5%, with dental increasing by over 9%. This was not anticipated in our initial projections and represents a major cost driver in this year's budget. As a result, the school department's appropriation requests increased from approximately 2.5 to 2.9%. On the municipal side, we worked to absorb these increases where possible and made the decision to defer certain capital improvement requests in order to remain within the state levy cap. More broadly, this budget reflects a careful effort to manage rising operating costs while continuing to invest in critical infrastructure. At the same time, the pressure to remain under the levy cap limits how much additional capacity we can build this year to prepare for anticipated debt service associated with the pending school bond in FY28, which will require continued attention in future budgets. Next slide. These are the four components that determine the tax rate. So you start with spending and what it takes to deliver services. Then you look at revenues, which we can offset from other sources. The tax base determines how the levy is distributed, and it all operates within the constraints like the tax cap. Next slide. This slide shows how our proposed expenditures are distributed across major service areas. Education, public safety, and public works together account for nearly 85% of the budget. This reflects the core services the town provides in the areas where most resources are committed. Next slide. So compared to the state average, we allocate more toward education and contribute more than the recommended contribution to the defined benefit plan. At the same time, we carry lower debt service, our pay and benefit obligations are lower, and we conduct and execute leaner operations. That reflects both our priorities and a disciplined approach to spending. The next slide. This slide narrows the comparison to similar municipalities. As you can see, Portsmouth's overall budget distribution is closely aligned with its peers. The largest categories, education, compensation, benefits, and operations, are very consistent across communities. Portsmouth is lower in debt service and compensation, while purposely and strategically allocating more toward our pension obligation. Overall, this reflects a budget structure that is consistent with comparable communities. Next slide. This chart shows debt service as a percentage of the overall budget over time. As you can see, we've maintained our debt service within a relatively low range, with a decline in recent years followed by some fluctuation. For fiscal year 27, current debt service is projected to decrease slightly to approximately 3.35% of the budget. This provides some near-term capacity as we prepare for the anticipated impact of the school bond beginning in FY28. The timing of how we build that capacity is important. To the extent that we build less of it this year, a greater adjustment will be required next year. Next slide. Over the long term, debt service declines as existing obligations roll off, even with the possible addition of a new school bond. Next slide. So this slide shows projected debt service over time, including the anticipated impact of the school bond beginning in FY28. The blue bar represents current debt service levels, while the green bars reflect projected anticipated levels if the bond is incorporated. As you can see, the debt service increases beginning in FY28, then stabilizes over time and gradually declines as existing debt is retired. This projection demonstrates that even with the addition of the school bond, the town maintains a manageable long-term debt profile. The key consideration is the timing of that increase in the early years following the issuance, which will require continued attention as we move through future budgets. Next slide, please. This slide shows our fiscal year 27 capital improvement plan by department. Overall, this is a restrained capital year. Most investments are focused on public works, recreation assets, and essential public safety equipment. Within DPW, the funding is largely directed towards equipment replacement and maintaining key town facilities. Recreation investments continue to focus on field improvements and park infrastructure used by the community. Public safety investments are more targeted this year, focused on equipment and safety upgrades rather than major capital expansions. Across the board, we have prioritized maintaining existing assets and supporting core functions while deferring larger discretionary projects as we prepare for future financial obligations. Next slide. This chart here shows how roadway conditions change over time depending on funding levels. Today, we're at a rating of nearly 72, which is considered industry-wide as satisfactory. At higher funding levels, obviously, we can improve conditions, and at lower levels, we would begin to see steady decline. So funding policy determines whether we maintain, improve, or allow conditions to deteriorate. Next slide, please. This shows how our roadway funding would be applied. The focus is on preventative maintenance and targeted repairs, addressing issues early to extend pavement life. That approach avoids more costly reconstruction down the road and keeps the overall system in better condition. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the portion of the budget that is discretionary versus non-discretionary. For the next fiscal year, approximately 97% of the budget is non-discretionary, meaning it's committed to essential services, contractual obligations, debt service, and other required expenditures, which means only about 3% of the budget is discretionary. This provides important context as we discuss potential adjustments, since changes to the overall budget largely involve areas that are either fixed or directly tied to service delivery. Next slide. This slide shows where the town's revenue comes from. Most of our revenue, nearly 85%, is derived from property taxes. This provides important context for the role the levy plays in supporting the overall budget. Next slide, please. So compared to the Rhode Island average, Portsmouth receives less state aid and relies more on property taxes to fund local services. If we go to the next slide, we compare Portsmouth revenue structure to similar Rhode Island communities. Here you can see that the overall pattern is very similar. Property taxes are the primary revenue source across all these communities. Portsmouth is slightly more reliant on property taxes, and that difference is largely explained by two factors. We receive somewhat less state aid, and we have a smaller base of local non-property tax revenues, particularly from commercial activity. That means a greater share of our budget is supported by the property tax. So while the numbers are close, this helps illustrate the structural factors that influence how our budget is funded. Next slide. As shown here, approximately 90% of the tax levy is derived from residential property, with commercial and tangible property making up the remaining 10%. This reflects the structure of Portsmouth's tax base, which is predominantly residential. As a result, changes in the levy are largely borne by residential taxpayers, and our ability to offset those impacts through commercial growth is limited. Next slide, please. This slide compares Portsmouth's property tax base to the state average. Portsmouth has a higher share of residential value and a smaller share of commercial value than the statewide average. That provides stability, but it also means we have fewer alternatives to offset the property tax. Next slide. So the proposed property tax levy, as I stated, increases 3.03%, which remains within the state's 4% cap. This results in a margin of approximately $633,000 under the statutory limit and represents potential capacity within the current fiscal year to plan for a probable FY28 debt service liability. Next slide. This slide summarizes our collection rates and distribution of the tax levy by property class. Collection rates remain strong and consistent across all classes. The overall levy, as I stated, increases by 3.3%, but the distribution reflects changes in assessed values. In particular, commercial valuations declined by approximately 13%, which results in a greater share of the levy being carried by residential property. This is a function of the revaluation, not a policy shift in how the levy is applied. Just to clarify, the levy determines how much property tax revenue the town raises overall. The tax rate is simply how the levy is distributed across the property values. So when values shift, as they did in this recent revaluation, the distribution changes, but the levy itself is what drives total revenue. This slide shows how the levy is derived from assessed values and the proposed tax rates. The total proposed levy is just over $67 million and remains well under the state tax cap. Next slide. This slide shows the change in tax rates year over year. The decrease in the residential and commercial tax rates reflects the results of the townwide revaluation, which is conducted every 9 years to align assessed values with current market conditions. It's important to note again that while the rate is decreasing, individual tax bills will vary depending on how a property's assessed value changed relative to the overall market. Properties that increase less than the average will see a decrease in minimal change. In those that increase more than the average, we'll see either a minimal change upward or a significant increase. Generally, about 4,400 tax bills will receive no change or a lower tax, and 4,600 tax bills will receive a higher tax next year. This slide puts the proposed budget in the context of current inflation. With inflation running between 3.3 and 3 nationwide and 3.6 for the Northeast, both municipal and school spending are below that level despite significant external cost pressures. At the same time, the revaluation resulted in a significant increase in assessed property values, which is what drives the corresponding decrease in the tax rate. Next slide. This slide shows the relationship between property values and taxes over time. While median home values have increased significantly, nearly doubling over 20 years, the associated tax burden has grown more modestly. Even after adjusting for inflation, tax growth remains well below both property value growth and cumulative inflation, reflecting long-term restraint. Next slide, please. So this slide shows how our tax dollars are allocated across the services the community relies on every day. The largest share supports our schools, followed by public safety, police, fire, and emergency medical services. Public works includes roads, snow removal, and maintaining town facilities. And the remaining categories support general government operations, capital improvements, and debt service. These are the core services that define what we provide as a full-service community. Next slide. Here we can see how the real estate levy is distributed. So most of your real estate, or the taxes on your home properties, support direct services. This includes, obviously, education, safety, and critical infrastructure. Next slide. So this slide shows how each dollar of residential tax revenue in this proposal will be distributed. Just over half of each dollar, about 54 cents, supports the school department. Public safety, including police and fire, accounts for roughly 23 cents combined, and public works and general government make up most of the remainder. The remaining balance of just over 6 cents supports capital improvements, debt service, and all other community programs. So in summary, this slide summarizes the proposal. It's balanced and disciplined. It protects core services, it absorbs significant cost pressures, and it reflects the reality that most of the budget is fixed and largely residentially funded, while providing potential to position us for what's coming ahead. So with that, Mr. President, we can move on to revenues.
Well, I'll start with any questions on the presentation. Do you need to make adjustments to revenues based on what we discussed this evening? Specifically, you're going to make some changes to Prudence Island.
Yeah, so
we can run through everything and then we can make the changes and approve our revenues tomorrow night.
yeah, I mean, there have been some decisions made tonight that are going to be reflected in the overall budget and the enterprise funds. And we will present those we'll start obviously tomorrow. I'll give you some updated figures on the revenues. So look, for instance, tonight we'll go through revenues, but we won't do Prudence Island revenues. We'll do that tomorrow night. And then we can kick into the expenditures.
Okay. Mr. Grieb, you have a question on the presentation?
Yes, I do. Tom Grieb, 110 Third Drive. I'm just curious, what size bond, it wasn't on the slide, did you assume in the blue and yellow, blue and green chart?
That's a great question. I went with worst case scenario, in my mind, 35 million. I know that stage 2 and the memorializing resolution went up to 41 or 42 million. We know we're not going to go that high. So it'll be up to the council in the future.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
That 35 million represents about $1.5 million in debt service. Let's say it's 31 million. I think it goes down to 1.2. Yeah. So just being conservative.
Thank you, sir. All right. Would you like to roll through revenue? Any other questions we have a hand up? Sorry. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the presentation tonight, and I'm here to learn. I have some comments that I put into a letter that was distributed to council members
Mr. Wilson,
overnight.
can I just stop you real
Yes.
quick?
Yep.
If you could just give obviously your name and address,
Oh,
Mr. Wilson.
of
but,
course. Thank you.
Your address is, I'm going to guess, 235 Black Point Lane? Or
It's
735?
735 Black Point Lane. My wife and I are 14-year part-time residents. We love and support our community, and we feel quite privileged to have a small property and a 1954 non-remodeled cottage on the water. It's quaint, and we love it, and we love the town. Here to learn tonight, and I have some comments that I distributed overnight. Perhaps you've seen them. Tried to get them to you early, but as I'm sure you all know, there's been a significant change in this year's updated property appraisals by Vision Appraisals. The proposed town budget shows what I showed before was a 39% increase. Tonight it looks like it's 37%. But by comparison, I took a look at what Portsmouth only real estate values have increased during that same 3-year period. That was only 10%. And I realized that the total assessed value would include new properties, but there seems to be quite a disparity there. The assessed values in our neighborhood that Vision is showing have gone up by more than 20% above other market indicators like Zillow. And we've never seen that before. Something's changed with Vision, and I can't seem to figure out what it is. We would suggest that the council pause the establishment of the new property tax assessment and tax rate until an independent appraiser can take a good look at the Vision process and their algorithms. Perhaps if it takes too long, we can do some reasonable adjustment to prior years, but there seems to be something way out of sync with the Vision appraisals this year. The apparent huge overstatement in assessed values, I should say appraised values by Vision, has caused the proposed property rate to drop by 10%. Have we ever seen such a tax rate drop in Portsmouth before? I don't think so. If my concerns are correct, the Vision process could be flawed. And I believe it would be irresponsible and unfair to present some residents with a false tax break while unfairly and incorrectly inflating other residential taxes before taking a good independent look of the Vision conclusion by qualified experts. Please slow down the budget process and get this important set of values right. Many in our town will be unfairly impacted both ways if we move ahead too quickly. Now, I understand more than 700 owners met with Vision over the last few weeks regarding their appraisals. And to the best of our knowledge, the town has not yet mailed detailed responses or revised assessment values to homeowners. I understand they're going out this week. But in order for the budget and property tax process to remain open and fair, owners should have time to review these responses before town meetings and certainly before the town finalizes budgets. Again, we respectfully ask the town council to pause this process. I've asked if there's an electronic searchable database that residents and town council members can use to evaluate the Vision process. And I asked that during our Vision meeting, and I was directed to a, I think, 6-inch thick binder in Mr. Helfand's office, and he was quite helpful, by the way. That reminded me of technology that was in place when our 1954 cottage was built. And Matt suggested that there was a recent sale on Indian Avenue that was the primary reason for the big increases in values of homes. We have an unremodeled 1,800 square foot home. We're not here to talk about our specifics tonight, but the Indian Avenue property was completely remodeled. It's on a town service road, and I have a typo in my letter to you all. It was sold for $8.5 million. Vision's assessed value of that property has dropped to $3.6 million. It's a 2-acre parcel. It's recently updated. It has a private beach. It's fabulous. It's more like a high-end resort. And someone had an emotional attachment to that property and really overpaid, even by Vision standards. So we don't think that $8.5 million really should be driving our tax numbers across the board. Also, my understanding from the Vision folks is we're only supposed to be looking at sales within a year of the 12/31/25 revaluation. And again, Matt was extremely helpful. He provided me with a list of sales during the period that were used by Vision. And unfortunately, I saw that there were quite a few that were outside of that 1-year limit. And I'm kind of curious as to why we're doing that. Now, there are a couple of other points beyond the vision specific valuation that I think the town needs to be considering. You know, the state passed a coastal access law back in 2023. In our case, about 6,000 feet of our property, or over 20%, basically now has an easement that really lowers the value of our property and limits the peaceful enjoyment of the property due to privacy issues. And since it's about 20% of our land, it seems like that easement ought to be recorded and it ought to be considered by Vision. They confirmed they hadn't considered that. In our limited analysis of Vision's assessments of waterfront property, we're seeing increases of over 100%. And that's not just us, that's quite a few properties. That's a huge increase, doubling of value in 3 years. That's not what the market did the last 3 years. With the negative impact of the state regulated public easement and this new waterfront assessment, it seems that the waterfront value should be lower, not twice as high. So that seems very strange. Finally, we just received a new tax bill, which I'm sure you're aware of. Again, we love the town. We're happy to be non-residents and contribute, but the state has come up with a new way of taxing us. We have a state tax bill that goes to only non-resident owners. The non-resident state tax uses the old assessment, in other words, last assessment. It increased our taxes 15%. Our property taxes would go up by 15%. If we use the Vision current assessment with a 100% increase, our taxes will go up by 30%, which is a huge increase. So we just kind of see these two state laws, one reducing security and privacy, and the other increasing tax burdens, impacting the value of our property and many others in town. And it just doesn't seem that Vision took this into account at all. So for all the reasons above, my wife and I respectfully ask that the town council pause the budget process until thoughtful and fair addressing of these material issues can be done. Now, while we're part-time residents, we spend several months a year and love our time in Portsmouth, and we welcome opportunities to give back to our second community. We try to be good stewards of our home, and as part-timers, we ask for far less in services. We love the Portsmouth community. The new taxes and laws are really a challenge for us, and we do wonder if the broader Rhode Island community loves us back. We do remain optimistic, however, that you on the council will reach thoughtful and fair resolutions of our concerns soon, and as always, we very much thank you for your service and your consideration.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Wilson. I can say that we can't stop the budget process because we do have to have a budget in place by July 1st. Waterfront properties across the board went up. Waterfront sales have gone up a lot. Generally speaking, we do these reevaluations and 33% of people's taxes go up, 33% stay about the same, and 33% go up. We're down. I missed one down. Thank you. Thank you for keeping an eye on me, Charlene. I can tell you from looking at your particular property, it was the property value that went up the most, not the cost of your house. So it's the cost if you were to sell your property, which unfortunately is happening in town where people are buying houses and knocking the house down and building a brand new one on it. So it was the value of your land and not the value of the house that triggered your large increase. But in terms of stopping the budget process, we cannot do that at this point in time. On to revenues.
Go to the budget book, page 8. We see the executive summary. Based on current revenue projections, I'm proposing a general fund budget of approximately $79,096,182. You realize this is going to change. But as it stands right now, it represents a 2.598% increase in the overall budget current year. The proposed tax levy, as we stated during brief, is 3.03%, which remains within the state 4% statutory cap with a margin of approximately $633,000. As discussed earlier in the presentation, the tax rate has been adjusted downward to reflect updated assessed values following the recent revaluation and subsequent review process. The levy itself remains unchanged.
Mr. Town Administrator, is your mic on?
It is now. Thank you. So if we could go to page 9, please. We'll move on to the revenue section of the budget. So page 9, this outlines the assumptions and sources that supported the proposed FY27 budget. At a high level, our revenue structure remains unchanged. The town continues to rely primarily on property taxes, which account for approximately, as I've stated, 85% of total revenue. The remaining revenues come from state aid and various local sources. Again, it's important to note that while assessed property values increased as part of the recent revaluation, the levy itself is controlled by statute. That means the overall amount we raise in property taxes is limited regardless of changes in individual property values. What the revaluation does is redistribute how that levy is shared among taxpayers based on updated market values. Outside of property taxes, most other revenue categories remain relatively flat. We have incorporated updated state aid figures, including housing aid, which resulted in a reduction to the originally proposed levy. So overall, this is a conservative revenue estimate designed to support the budget while minimizing risk. So you can either follow the bottom line numbers here on page 9 or track along with me starting on page 14. So on pages 14 and 15, these pages show how the tax levy is calculated, including the certified tax roll by class, the proposed tax rate per $1,000 of assessed value, and the anticipated collection rate. As I stated, the estimated collection rate remains strong at 97.75%, consistent with recent actual performance. If we go to page 16. We have tax revenue. So after accounting for uncollectible allowances and adding prorated taxes, payment in lieu of taxes, pilots, and prior year collections, projected gross tax revenue is $67,051,855, representing a 3.08% increase over the current year. Page 18, please. There we go. So state aid is projected at $8,209,786, which is a slight decrease overall. This reflects updated housing aid projections, updated after the budget was initially developed.
Sorry, Mr. Grieve, you have a question on the property tax or the state revenue aid?
State aid.
Sure.
Tom Grieve, 110 Third Drive. I also found that the state housing aid from the recent bond was not in the budget. However, when I calculated what the correct number should be, I did not get the $725,000 figure now budgeted. The original $137,000 is correct for the old bonds. If you look at page 74 of the budget, the fiscal year 26 debt service for the 22 bond was $1,429,000. 45% of that is $643,000. Adding the $137,000 and the $643,000 together, we should be getting $780,000 in state reimbursement next year. The budgeted 725 is 55,000 below that. However, that 780,000 does not include any catch-up money for when we paid debt service, but did not get reimbursed because the project had not yet been completed. Some of that money was budgeted last year. I will save the time by not going through the calculations I did, but I conservatively calculated we should get approximately $60,000 for catch-up in fiscal year 27. That would raise the total to be budgeted to $840,000, which is $115,000 more than is presented in this budget. I'd suggest that the council have the state aid calculations reviewed and presented to you in detail before approving this line in the budget tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grieve. I know Mr. Diario goes through this line by line and stays on top of RIDE to make sure we're getting all the dollars that we're supposed to. And some of the money that may have been in there as well was tied to the roof repair. And I don't know if we're getting that this year or next year for the high school. But we'll ask Mr. Diario.
I was speaking solely about the debt service for the 2022
Okay.
bond.
I will-
That's it.
I will
That
ask
was
him
it.
to look into it,
Is that, excuse me,
Mr. Reese.
is that a school bond item? Because it is missing from what I could see. We didn't get reimbursed for that.
For what?
The catch up when the bond is retired, you get.
The housing aid is the payment for what we're owed on the school bond. We will ask them to look
They
into to
will-
see if there's any
all right,
more.
I'm here. Do I have to make a motion? We have
Nope.
that investigated? All right.
Nope. It's already been done.
All right. I have another question on page 18. As far as state aid, is there a reimbursement for the road repairs, the road reimbursement fund? The
That-
state
the-
it gives us back money, but I didn't see it listed anywhere.
Is that under just a general state aid? It's not a it's a,
Well, revenue from road reimbursement,
Yeah,
and I think
it's-
that's what they call it, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see that listed.
the Rhode Island Road Program, whatever the heck you call it.
Yeah, Rhode Island Road
Work.
Program.
Thank you.
Where would that be?
That's in the actual DPW road improvement.
And is
Budget.
is
It's
it
not
listed
in-
as such? Like
It's
a-
not in state aid, it's netted against the road improvements, and we can break that out for you, but it is in road
Okay.
improvements.
All right. And it's not state, and we don't really have any place, do we have any place that we list federal aid? Because we're gonna get FEMA money that we're gonna have received from the federal government. And
We
that-
may get FEMA money.
Well, we'll know, because Dave Gleason and I are on the water board, and they're working with the town to get this money.
We
Um,
we may get FEMA aid. We
All
can't.
right, when it does, I'd like the council shall be notified.
Yep.
And so that the funds received and provided with a detailed list of how it's going to be distributed for council approval. Can we do that? I mean, when it comes in, we have to decide where it goes because it's new funds, right?
When it comes in, it goes back against, I mean, the biggest cost driver was overtime and DPW. So it would go to offset those costs. It would, if it came in
But that
after
came out of
July.
Last year's budget, that
if
would
it-
have to go into a contingency fund
No,
or
if it
something?
if it came in as a unexpected revenue, it would just come in as a surplus and be added into the budget.
Okay, can we be made aware of that when it
Yeah.
comes in? Okay,
Of course, we'll be made aware of it.
all right.
I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting in a FEMA aid number of
No, you can't.
$100,000
I just
and
wanna
it
make
doesn't
sure that
show.
There's a spot in this where it would go.
It would,
It's a
yeah, it would-
Procedural thing too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Ms. McDowell?
What is the normal time frame for something like that? Is there a,
You
Normal.
tell me, is there anything normal with the federal government?
no?
It could be 6 months, it could be a year and a
6
half,
months,
2
it
years.
Could be a year, it could be longer.
And I'm just going by Ray nodding in the back. He handles that, so. There is no normal with the federal government, especially this one. That we're dealing with. Yeah. All right, Mr. Rayner, continue on, please.
Sure. So if we go just below state aid on page 18, we'll start Department of Revenues. Outside property taxes and state aid, most local revenue categories remain relatively flat with modest adjustments based on recent activity and trends. So these estimates are intentionally conservative to ensure stability and avoid over-reliance on variable revenue sources. So from here, I'll walk through the Department of Revenues, beginning with the town clerk. Real estate transfer fee revenues remain steady, and we are maintaining the projection at $550,000 consistent with current trends. Overall, town clerk revenues are projected to remain relatively flat year over year, with minor adjustments across categories based on recent activity. These estimates reflect a more normalized market compared to the elevated activity seen in prior years, and we are projecting 842,500 in total town clerk revenue, or a 0.06 increase over fiscal year 26. If we go to page 19, at the top of the page, we have finance. Within finance revenue, we have interest income projected at 400,000, which is consistent with current balances and prevailing rate conditions. We have held this estimate level year over year, reflecting a more stable interest rate environment following the increases seen over the past several years. Other finance revenues remain minimal and are projected flat. Overall, finance revenue is stable and based on current performance and conservative assumptions. We project $406,000 in finance revenue next year.
Mr. Green, you want to make a comment about where we're staying on?
Yeah, I was just going to,
Gleason first.
you said it's conservatively funded. Is that why we've gone from like 536,000 in 24, 554? And the only interest we're getting now is $400,000 that we're presenting it. I mean, does that stay on the safe side, or is there actually potential to make more on the interest?
So conservatively, I decided to keep this at 400,000 this year. In FY '26, I did increase the interest income by almost 250,000. In prior years before '24, interest income was quite low. I'd say below 100,000. So I'm trying to be conservative. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the rate cuts or anything of that nature come next year. 254 midway through the year. Could we receive more to up to 500 this year? Yes, yes. But I'm trying to be conservative. I don't
Sure.
want to lose out on 100,000.
Do you-
I know it was asked too that we look into coupon CDs. That is something that I have looked into. I have not been able to progress it until I have some time on my hands.
Would you be able to say like how many funds were invested in? Ballpark, I mean, 2, 20?
This is solely interest income.
Yeah.
I could look into TD and see what is being invested, but this is just money that is in our general fund.
Okay.
It's just the
I'm
interest based off of
misunderstanding
that.
it.
That's
Yep,
the
okay.
inside. There's
Gotcha.
no
Okay,
investment of,
right.
other than the interest directly.
Okay. Thank you, Kayla.
Mr. Green?
Tom Grebe, 110 Third Drive. It was discovered in the last audit that the money from the various funds, like special revenue funds, resides in the general fund. We were told this makes it easier to invest the money and track it, which is quite reasonable. The audit showed $23.5 million in cash or equivalents in this fund as of last June. I understand that the amount will fluctuate over the year as we spend money, get tax receipts, et cetera. The audit of the previous June showed around $20 million in these funds. So these funds are growing year over year. The following are recent yields for various instruments appropriate to these funds. Money market, 3.25 to 4%. High yield savings, 4 to 4.2%. U.S. Treasuries under 1 year, 3.8%. And this is the big one. Local government investment pools like the Fidelity Ocean State Investment Pool was paying 3.61%. At 2%, $23.5 million will provide $470,000. At 3%, $708,000, and at 4%, $940,000. The water company has invested their similar funds in laddered treasuries and CDs. We get money monthly fund reports, and they have earned over 4%, almost 4% in the last year. It's clear that rates substantially above 3% are quite reasonable to obtain. If you very conservatively assume the town average is about $20 million in that cash fund, and equivalents and gets only 3% interest, at least $600,000 should be budgeted. The council asked for an investment plan for these funds several months ago. This is the time to insist on one and budget accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grieb. I look forward to my water bill going down with all that money you're making at the water board.
Oh, we've got.
It is being worked on, but budget is coming first.
I have
Mr.
a
Reese?
question. Seeing as we did ask for it at one point to look into investing better,
is.
I think we could be a little bit more aggressive than we are, because we're probably only getting, what, about 1%, 1.5% on the money? And there's a lot of safe places that you can invest money and not tie it up for long periods. Is that something we can look at? I think we asked for that at one point, didn't we, Harry?
It is being looked at, yes.
Okay.
It is still being looked at. If there are line items in this budget that you would like to change, you make a motion to change the line item. If you say, I would rather see $525,000 in there, you can say that.
Okay.
If it's not realized, then we're in trouble. That's why our finance director is asking to be conservative.
If more money is generated, how do we realize that? Not until the
We
next
realize
year?
it on the end of June when the audit is done, and then we say, okay, I mean, if simple numbers say that 254 was through the end of the year, then we're gonna have about 500, and we're gonna be about $100,000 over that line item
Yeah.
at the end of the year.
No, I was just looking at the, 6 months is 254,000, so that's about 508. So it doesn't carry across. That was my only question. We went, from 7/1/25 to 12/31/25. It
Okay.
made
Again,
$254,000.
if you want to
And-
raise it to 500,000, you can make a motion to raise
Okay.
it to 500,000.
I'd like to make a
but-
motion to raise it to 508,000.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
With the interest rate environments going down, I'm a little concerned about raising it that much, but if the council wants to go there and raise it that much, it'll just come off the top of the tax burden. And then, make the tax levy potentially go down to 9.84. I don't know if it's gonna be that much, but it's about a penny for every $60,000 or $70,000. Any further discussion?
Can I just make a recommendation? We just settle in the middle at 450. I think there's more room there, but I think I like Kayla's conservative approach. So if you're gonna change it at all, I wouldn't go all out.
All right.
So would you like to amend his motion to 450, or would you like to amend your motion?
I'll amend my motion and make it 450 for now. But I think in the future, we should be looking at more aggressive
We will.
investment procedures. There he is again.
Ms. McDowell?
I don't know. I do think that, I mean, the track record is over 500,000 for the last, and probably this year too, when we get done. Do we have anything, Kayla, up until now, do you know? Like, sometimes I have those in the,
Finance report.
yeah, sometimes I look at that and I didn't look at that. Do you have any idea, up until now?
As of March 31st, 366,000.
366?
Hmm.
Well, I would love to increase it just because of the record that 100,000, but I would, I guess I would be agreeable to anything that I can get the vote for, but,
Well, before you agree to anything, there's a motion on the table
Yeah, I
to
know.
set it at 450. If it is currently 366, three quarters through the year, that it should settle around 488. I'm using round numbers here,
yeah,
but I prefer to be conservative than
no, I understand, but
being here next year, looking at ways to shift money around to cover expenses or so.
so the motion is to do what? What's the
The
number?
motion is to move it to 450.
50,000?
450,000 to increase it by 50, correct? Correct. Mr. Grebe?
Tom Grebe, 110 Third Drive. I want to, the emphasis should be on making sure that it's invested properly rather than the actual amount of money that you're going to get. That's the key to make it. Right now, at $500,000 and assuming a $20 million fund, you're talking a 2.5% interest rate. The Ocean State Investment Pool, that is, you can go to the Rhode Island Treasurer's website, and he says this is a good investment for these things in Rhode Island. It matches all of the Rhode Island rules and so forth. It's getting more than 1% more than that. It's getting 3.61%. And both of these numbers are past numbers. The 500 is what we're getting up to this point in the fund, and the other is the same. So it's at least 1% higher if you invest it properly, regardless of what the number you actually choose is. That's the key thing this council needs to do.
Understood. It's being worked on. So there's a motion and a second to change the interest income revenue line item to $450,000, which would change the finance total to $456,000. And of course, the revenue number would change by 50,000, and we could reduce the need for property tax by 50,000. Ms. Blank.
I feel we should be more fiscally conservative, and there's always the addition that could come. And leaning on professionals who have a degree in finance, I think is responsible, in my opinion.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-1 with Ms. Blank in the negative. Tax collector revenue.
Okay.
Could I just make
Mhm.
a statement or a motion just to follow this up, just so that it fall off the cliff? I'd like to make a motion to have the town administrator and the finance director present our current investment strategy and present a future investment plan going forward as soon as possible.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Tax collector, sir.
Yep.
Feverishly taking notes.
Okay, on that same page, the tax collector revenues are projected to remain generally consistent with the current year. Most of the revenue is derived from penalties, interest, and lien-related fees, which tend to be stable based on historical collection activity. So overall, we are projecting a slight increase, or $262,550 in revenue, but the category remains relatively level year over year. Go to page 20. The top of the page, we see building-related revenues. Building official-related revenues are projected at $824,000 for fiscal year 27. While this represents an increase over the current budget, the estimate is consistent with recent actual performance and aligns closely with the two-year average. This projection is based on known activity, including projects already approved and in the pipeline, rather than speculative growth. And below that, we have planning. Planning-related revenues are projected at approximately $44,000 for fiscal year 27, which is consistent with the current year. These revenues are driven primarily by application and filing activity, which can vary from year to year. This estimate reflects a conservative approach based on typical levels rather than higher one-time activity seen in prior years. We go to page 21. At the top of the page, we see police revenue. So we are projecting police-related revenues of $223,500. an increase of about $15,000 over last year. This change is primarily driven by traffic fine revenue, which is being adjusted to better reflect recent actual observations. Most other categories remain flat or show only minor variation. As with prior years, these projections are based on observed activity levels and do not assume any change in enforcement practices. And just below that, we have Harbor Master. Harbor Master revenues are projected at approximately $147,000, an increase of about $30,000 over last year. This increase is driven by the mooring fee adjustment approved by the council in November, and not by any change in usage or enforcement. So mooring fines and other revenues remain consistent with prior years. At the top of page 22, we have fire revenue. So here, ambulance revenue is projected at $134,000, consistent with fiscal year 26. This represents about 29% of total anticipated ambulance revenue, with the majority continuing to be directed to the Public Safety Capital Fund. That fund supports major equipment purchases such as fire apparatus and police vehicles, all fuel for the fire vehicles, their maintenance, and ambulance billing fees. As those costs have skyrocketed in recent years, particularly the purchase of apparatus, we will gradually allocate more of this revenue to the Public Safety Capital Account to keep that capital program sustainable and reduce future reliance on borrowing or tax-supported funding. We'll skip over the Prudence Island Transfer Station. We can address that tomorrow or not.
Yes, Mr. Green. Why is it 134, 134?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Hello, what? If you'd like to come up and say something, come up and say something. Don't yell out from the back of the room, please.
No, that was the question.
It's-
It's obviously a mistake
It was
here.
answered, but it was
Oh.
not as eloquently as it could be answered.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Ray, if you could,
No, it's,
Say it again.
as
No, no.
long as you recognize it's going to be corrected, I don't really
it's not
care.
to be corrected. It's the number is the number. It's based on the 29% of the billing revenues.
No. Each of the last three numbers are exactly the same down to the $94.
Yes.
That can't possibly be.
Okay. It's probably going to be less because I was just informed that we have less traffic accidents and there's less people going to the hospital, which I think is a great thing. Which is why the traffic fines are up. So they balance each other out. Mr. Rayner, you want to try and explain it better?
We're programming that much money. We just level funded it.
Oh.
We're programming that much money into the general fund from this
Not what I would.
revenue source. Generally speaking, 29% goes to the general fund. We're trying to reduce the reliance on this revenue because of all the skyrocketing costs for the purchase of apparatus and maintenance of those vehicles and fuel in the Public Safety Capital Account. That's all purchased through that account. So all the revenue outside of the $134,000, the level funded $94, will be going into the Public Safety Capital Fund. That's all that we're saying.
Okay.
It's just being level funded from last year.
You don't level fund revenue.
It's a
It's a percentage of the total revenue. So it's being level funded. So this year it's 29%. Next year it might be 26 based on these numbers. And the rest is going into the capital improvement plan for the public safety. So
Do you have that someplace else where
Yes.
the amount that's going into the capital improvement plan?
everything out, all the ambulance revenue comes in, 139,000 or 34,094 will go into this revenue line. Everything else will go into the Public Safety Capital Fund.
Okay,
Which
but
is
you don't
restricted
project that then? You don't have a number that, you haven't projected that number?
We have not projected that number. I mean, I'm sure
Okay.
Chief could provide that, what he anticipates that number is going to be, but all that money goes into a restricted account.
And, all right.
it was set up 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
It's been a number of years, yes.
Since last year.
No, but the explanation just is we're putting more of that money to the capital improvement rather than into supporting the general fund of the budget to help defray the costs of the now used to be $500,000 engine that is now 750 or $1 million. That's all.
I'm not wrestling with the logic. I can understand what you're doing. I'm wrestling with the accounting of it because money's coming in and I want to know how it's being accounted for. We're only accounting for 139,000 here. Where are we accounting for the other part? And that, I'll find out.
It's in the
Now that I know how it's being handled, I can go look myself, but
It's in the public safety capital improvement plan. Revenue. Okay, we're skipping prudent silent because we're going to change that for tomorrow.
23, we have recreation. Here we're projecting revenues of $336,900, which is a modest increase over the previous fiscal year. This is being driven by continued strong participation across a wide range of programs and facilities, including camps, Brown House, Sandy Point Beach, and field use. Our largest revenue source in this line remains camps and programs. The department offers a widely diversified list of programs that appeal to a wide spectrum of the community. We are hoping that this will help revenue stabilize and become more predictable year to year, even as individual programs fluctuate. And then we have rental and other. So we are projecting approximately $602,175 in rental and other revenues, which is essentially level fiscal year 26. This category includes revenues from town-owned assets such as tower leases, Glen Manor House, Millville Campground, and other rental agreements. These revenues tend to be stable and predictable with minor year-to-year variation based on usage.
Ms. McDowell.
Yep. I just have a question going back to recreation, Parks and Recreation. So in the actual for 2025, we were $57,000 short. In the approved for 2026, it appears that we could possibly be $150,000 short, correct? Now, where are you now, Kayla? Do you have a number?
So looking at the camps and recreation
March, yeah.
fees for March, we're at 102,000.
Okay. I mean, that's significant, right? The last couple of years, that shortage. Wow. I think, I don't know. We have to
Well,
look
I
at
mean,
it, I guess.
Those fees are generally just used to cover the cost of running the programs. So if 20 kids sign up, the 20 kids cover the cost of that program. I know with the addition of Ellen down there and Wendy's help, I hope we can raise those numbers, but the recreation department revenue basically pays for the recreation department. So it's not going to offset the budget or taxes. Spend.
I have a question. So on the same recreation, Brown House, is that the rentals of the space upstairs?
It's a rental, yes. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 units plus a 10% retainer. So that is the rental and the retainer.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gleason?
I just have a question on the Glen Manor House. There's a little dip in the income. Is that just being conservative or are we actually losing events down there?
It's
How do you feel for that?
It's a little bit of both, not so much losing, but based on everything that's been going on, people are scaling back their numbers. So they're inviting less people. We had a meeting with Glen Manor House today to discuss this. They're going to be working with us to look for other ways to increase that revenue. But it's impossible to project that right now.
So you're still seeing the same amount of events, but just less participants to make money from. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I know of people who are looking to book weddings and they're out till end of October of next year. But like Mr. Rayner said, less people going at 100, 120, 30, 130 bucks a head. Starts getting very expensive for a wedding. Ms. McDowell?
In the Melville Pond campground, that the revenue seems to be going down every year. What do we know anything about? That's unusual for campgrounds when I try to get into them.
You're seeing the same thing happen here. Fuel costs are quite high, so while they're maintaining a very good level of reservations, it's the number, the length of the stays has been decreasing, and they're not getting as much revenue as anticipated. Again, we've had multiple meetings with Justin May, and we will be working with him to also look for ways to increase that revenue. But this is the projection for now.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton,
Mr. Reese?
just a quick one. Now, is this something that could be eliminated? The farmland agricultural, didn't we get rid of all that land when we were gonna, because we're gonna make it into, soccer fields?
No, there's still
is
some
there more?
income. Yeah, not everything has been gone. It's only
Okay,
a little bit.
all right. Still.
Next? That's it. Nope.
That's it. So what we'll do is we will come back tomorrow. We'll give you Prudence Island updated revenue figures and updated expenditures, because the tax rate and the levy will change slightly, and then we'll start from there.
Also, the other adjustments that were made this evening.
Correct.
The $50,000, the Prudence Island transfer,
Correct.
okay, and the curbside.
All right, I have one other thing.
Sure.
That I'd like to, on page 70, which is recreation, and it's
Is
gonna-
it revenue related or
It's-
expenditure related?
let's see.
If it's
This is-
expenditure, we'll hit it on Tuesday night,
Well,
Wednesday
the
night.
reason I'm just mentioning this is because I think it's going to take a little bit more, because this is recreation and this is the proposed projects of,
So is this in the CIP
Yeah.
then?
yes.
Okay,
For example, all the things that want to go on down at Cogshell Demo, baseball fields, Glen Park, structures, et cetera. We need more detailed information on this. I mean, this is, just not a description of
Right,
what is
we-
actually happening there.
We will be covering CIP in detail when we get to the CIP section.
So you're going to explain it at that
Of
time?
course.
No, but sometimes I like to read these things ahead of time, All right. I'll try to get my questions ready. All right,
you could also send them ahead of time, just shoot an email and ask a question.
all right.
Correspondence, is there anything anybody wants to pull off on correspondence?
Motion to receive and place on file.
Thanks.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes by 6-0. We have our future meetings tomorrow night, Wednesday night at 7 PM. Thursday if needed, and then our May 11th town council meeting here at 7 PM. Any other meetings that anyone wants to schedule? Hopefully not. If not, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes